Yo, what up, bruffin? You able to hear me? I don't think you need push to talk in here. One second. Let me see. You may need to have a role. Let me just drag you in and out. I think you should be able to use voice activity in here now.
Hello?
Yeah, there you
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yeah, one second.
Alright,
Sorry, I had
cool.
you coming through
So,
my speakers. Yeah, how are you doing?
uh, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Are
Cool,
you
cool.
recording?
Yes, yeah, I am.
Alright, that's cool. It's pretty nice to be talking to one of the four debate gods in this universe. I talked to Vosh and I talked to AY or Avi,
Mm-hmm.
and I just I wanted to talk to you, and then I want to talk to Destiny, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Um,
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the comparison of Vosh and Destiny, but it's weird. You
but
over and under compliment at the same time because debate God is a massive overstatement, but then a comparison to Vosh is like a fucking massive understatement. So it,
I
it
mean,
evens
I don't
out, I
know.
guess.
Yeah, I haven't seen Vosh ever get like destroyed in a debate, but he
Did you
destroys
see
a
when
lot of
I
people.
talked to
So
him?
it's just but even when you were talking to him, it felt like I mean he might have contradicted himself in the because I
A
watched
little
this
bit.
video about it, but I did like he was able to rhetorically kind of stay uh in good shape, I think, just for his
Oh, but
audience, which is all that matters in my opinion.
oh, that okay. Well, you have a
Well,
very
not really.
different kind of view than I do.
Well,
In
yeah, I understand, but so yeah. So what I want to talk about. So I'm kind of confused. What
Sharon,
your
what do
position
you
is?
just for the record, what do you want me to call you? You want me to call you by your name, or you want me to call you by your moniker on here? What's preferable?
Oh yeah, you can call me Bruffin.
Okay.
Uh, so so I heard you. I think. Well, I think I saw. You made a message about being somewhat of an incel or something like that, and then I
Oh,
heard
what?
you. What?
I don't think
What were
I've
you?
ever talked about being an incel unless it was ironically.
Hmm. I. It was something about like you're you're reading into a lot of incel content,
Oh, yeah,
and then
but I've read into a ton of crazy shit. Just to be clear, like I've looked at incel content. I have an idea what their beliefs are, but I'm not an incel. And if you have a
okay,
look at the context, if you search like the word incel, and my name or whatever, and just look for, like in the chat, like in general, I'm
hmm,
sure that the picture you'll get from looking at that is very much like me ripping on incel ideology. I mean, I can
okay,
tell you
so
my kind of criticisms, but yeah, no, I don't identify with that ideology. I think it's super
okay,
fucking toxic.
yeah, so that's hold on, yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask next is whether or not you're kind of on the incel side, like the black pilled side, or whether you're like you all think it's stupid or something.
I like that you came prepared with questions and stuff. Yeah, well, I think that with a lot of these things, I mean, it seems to me like it's uncommon that you get like a whole, ideology forming when there's absolutely no truth to it on any level at all, right? Like, I think that there is some kernel of truth to what they're talking about, but I think that overall it's not like an accurate picture of reality and it's super toxic. I forget the exact phrasing of your question. Did I answer it or did I miss it? You can say it again.
No, you answered it.
Yeah, okay.
So I mean, so the kernel of truth. Do you think that's um, something like it's easier for women to um, get into relationships than men?
I think that's one of the kernel of truth. Wait,
Okay,
easier for women to get into relationships. Wait, so well, relationships is a bit weird. It's definitely easier for women to get sex than men. That's for sure. It's probably
yeah,
easier to get a relationship too, actually, frankly. But it's most obvious with sex, though.
okay, um,
I'll just be clear. When I was talking about the kernel of truth, like what I had in mind, I think I mean, that seems true also. So fair enough. But what I had in mind was, um, like basically the incel stuff is gonna, there's like this idea that looks are like extremely important, and I think the kernel of truth is that looks do make a difference, right? Like it gives you like a
Mm-hmm.
competitive advantage, and I think it's also the kind of thing where there's like a certain sort of threshold where if you're below that in terms of looks, you are basically fucked. Like if you're like hideously
Mm-hmm.
deformed, like yeah, that'll fuck you over. But as long as you're like not in that category, then you're over the kind of basic threshold. And sure, you won't have as easy results as someone who looks really good, but you're not like completely and utterly fucked. So the kernel of truth I was thinking of is just that looks do make a difference. There's like these different areas of the like quote manosphere, and some of the other ones have
Mm-hmm.
like different ideologies about looks. Like the pickup guys will tell you a very different picture. A lot of, I mean, there's obviously, I shouldn't talk about that group like it's a monolith either, but there's like very large swaths of that community that are going to tell you that looks actually don't matter at all, and the only thing that matters is quote game, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's false, right? Like obviously looks matter. Obviously you have a better shot if you're, like in good shape, like visibly muscular, have good features than if you're like, some
Mm-hmm.
like unkept like blob or something, like obviously, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's the kernel of truth I was thinking of.
Yeah, I guess it's just about determining like how hard it is to get into a relationship as a man, to get sex from women as men, how difficult that process is. I haven't really done a lot of research about this. I've seen some things where uh men ask women out a lot more, and like women get asked out a lot. So uh but I've seen that. But yeah, I mean I'm not like too comfortable making, I mean, any, like I've obviously had said statements that were kind of ironic before in the past about
Mm-hmm.
being an incel, but I don't know, like I like to actually debate someone on it. I haven't done that, so I don't know. I have an intuition that, you know, women are just gonna freaking, you know, like go Stacy crazy. They're just gonna like fly, spaceships into the freaking space and just have like one man that they're having sex with. Like 3.7 billion women just have sex with like one guy, like ultra hypergamy. But I don't know.
Um,
That's probably silly.
well, I guess I
That's
need a
just an
bit more.
exaggeration.
Yeah, I know you're exaggerating, but like, I mean, like, I guess I might need something a bit more like specific to kind of know if we disagree, but
Well,
or well, to what degree we disagree. But I don't think women. I'm not
so
sold on this view that women are like hypergamous to a point that they're like, you can't like want to get into a decent relationship
so
and expect that to happen and whatnot. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, the theory is kind of like men are gonna get more desperate for female attention, and then the more desperate men get for female attention, the more desperate they get. It's like a cycle of, women, not like today's men are doing more and more in order to get sex with me, so I can afford to raise my standards kind of. But like I don't, I can't. That's just kind of my intuition. What's gonna happen?
Yeah, well, I know the like I don't want to just say it's the incel view because it's kind of like it's shared by like red pill people or like just whole chunks of the manosphere, but the view is something like that women who are objectively like a 3 think they're like a 10, and it's because the state of like the sexual marketplace is such that there's just so much more need on the part of men than on the part of women as a result of like
Hmm.
I don't know, like some like historical trends, like I don't know, like sexual liberation and like birth control and shit like this, that yeah, women just have this like horribly inflated sense of their own value, and so it becomes like extremely difficult for the majority of guys to get like anything. Like the picture is something like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
But
I'm well, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I'm not really too confident arguing that yet. I haven't had a lot of free time and stuff to research. I mean, it'd be pretty hard, I think, to actually like have a debate on that. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. Um,
Yeah,
But I
I think you're right about that. I'll just say one thing right there. I think that part of what makes a lot of this stuff hard to have like to make progress on is that we don't have, like, as far as I understand, there's not a lot of data on a lot of these things, and a lot of this is like people kind of like speculating about how the world is, right? So like my experience definitely does not, well, conform to that kind of picture that I just painted. I think there's like some degree of that. Like I don't think it's completely false,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
I understand that. I know that like it's not like non-incels or uh people who don't believe in incel ideology. It's not I think that they um think that there's level of um some level of well, like women find it easier to get sex and stuff than guys do, and guys are just
Hmm.
like biologically kind of, they have more of a desire for sex. Like I
Yeah.
understand that.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
uh yeah, I'm not trying to strawman that or anything, but
No, it's, yeah, like, well, I don't know if guys biologically have more of a desire for sex, but like, I mean, I'll tell you the kind of picture that I do have, and again, like, it's, yeah, like, I agree with you. It's hard to establish a lot of this stuff,
mhm.
so we just kind of have to talk about our experience where and where, I guess, where data is available. I'm happy to
Yeah.
yeah. So my picture is a lot more like there's different challenges for guys and for girls. Like girls don't have the like getting sex challenge. Like that's like a
Uh-huh.
guy challenge, right? Like it's any like the one of the least attractive girls could has like a handful of
They
guys you
could
could
have,
call and get sex
yeah,
from
like,
like easily. Like it's just not
yeah.
a female challenge. There's just guys just want sex. But there's challenges that girls have also, like when sex comes easy, you might be concerned with other things like finding like a good partner, right? That could be
Mhm.
hard too. So I think there's different challenges for both. And my picture of like kind of almost like the core question here, like what is the situation facing like the average guy who just wants to like find a girl he likes, or I don't know, just get like a relationship or get like regular casual sex or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
My picture is a lot more like, as long as you're not in one of these categories, like hideously deformed or something like that, there's just a few fronts that you just have to put in adequate time and effort on, and everything will be fine. So that's basically, you want to get in good shape. This is just like basic. You want to have like good hygiene, shape, health, like
Mhm.
health, that kind of stuff, right? You want to have your life, like, this also, your finances. I'm not, this is not in order of importance or anything. You want to have your finances in control, right? You don't want to be broke and handicapped by money to the
Mhm.
point that you can't, like, go get a drink with a girl or something like that. So having your finances in order, having your health and hygiene, that kind of shit in order. Also having a good lifestyle. I think this is probably a lot more important than the other two, actually. Again, not going in order of importance. Having a good lifestyle that people, women included, will want to be a part of when they're exposed to it, right? That'll draw people in. So good lifestyle. And then also just being this, and this is like by far probably the most important, like just having a positive attitude and just becoming like a fun person, a fun positive person who people want to be around. Now obviously that's kind of like the bedrock, right? Of like, you gotta like kind of just have your shit together, good lifestyle, good health, be in shape, your finances are okay,
Mhm.
and you're a positive person with good self-esteem who's not some toxic fucking incel ideologue or something like this. But that's not necessarily going to make a girl like you. That's like kind of like, now you have like the basic kind of floor of like, those are the things you need in place, and then on top of that you have to actually develop, like, I guess what the pickup guys will call like game, right? Like you need to kind of know
Mhm.
how to actually like get girls. Like you need to know how to talk to girls and how to flirt and stuff like that. And you can find like, on the internet, there's content that is actually good about that, even though I think the pickup space is saturated with like trash, obviously. But you can find good
Mhm.
channels like Alex over at Playing with Fire. He has a great channel. That content is highly reliable, right?
Yeah,
There's some
yeah,
others.
I've seen some of their videos. Do you
Yeah.
think that
So
you think that
that's
like
my picture. Yeah.
do you think that non like women having non-monogamous relationships are gonna be is like better for men's sexual success?
Women having non-monogamous relationships is better for men's sexual success. Do you mean
Like
are
generally.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's like an empirical question. Like
Mm,
I guess because I'm kind of there's two things competing in my head when you say that. So if women are having non-monogamous sex, then it's like they're open to have sex like with more people, right?
mm-hmm.
But there's also like, if everyone's got to, kind of like lock down with a particular partner, like say we have like a culture of shame around this kind of stuff and it's like you very much got to be monogamous, well that might like raise the odds for your like, kind of quote like lower value sort of like beta guys who like wouldn't succeed well in that more competitive space. So, I'm not entirely sure. It just seems like an empirical question. I don't really know. Do you have a view on that?
Well, yeah, I have intuition that it's like kind of that I think it would be worse because um like if it's a case that men have it really hard to get sex or whatever, then you could have these like uh men that are attractive, men that are like really good looking, and they wouldn't be in a monogamous relationship. They would be, because women don't want monogamous relationships or whatever. Women aren't having them. So these men, they wouldn't be taken.
Mm-hmm.
So women could just have sex with them and stuff and have one night stands, etc. But I mean,
Um,
that's
Well, let me ask also because I become curious, and you obviously don't have to answer anything you don't want to. But
yeah.
does this come up from a place of you personally struggle in these domains? Like, is this like a part of your
Oh,
life that's not under control very well?
uh, not really, man. I haven't. I mean, I don't know. Probably, yeah. I mean, I would say it would be really hard for me to get a girlfriend, but I might be able to.
So
But
why
I'm just
why
kind of,
would you say that? Yeah.
well, just because of the way I look, and like I walk in the hallways, and I just hear some. I mean, it's just anecdotal stuff. Like I'm not obvious. I'm not comfortable debating this. Like I said, like
Well, we're not debating. I'm
legitimately.
just asking. And you don't just if you don't want to answer anything, just say so. Right? That's fine.
No, it's fine. It's just I don't know. I hear a lot of women talk about things that I don't know. They talk about relationships they've had. They talked about like dating so many guys and getting messages from so many guys. Like that's like 50% of what high school girls I'm around talk about. They just talk about that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just
Um,
kind of depressing.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, you're also in high school for sure. So but let me ask about the kind of checklist though, right? Like first of all, like in terms of health, like are you in good shape? Do you work out?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm alright. Not like
I mean,
I could
yeah,
be
but
more
are
I could be
are
more muscular, but
yeah, but are I mean, I'm just asking like are you regularly working out, like making progress physically? That's like one domain, right?
yeah, I've been doing that. I haven't been doing it lately because of work and stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And when you say because of how I look, like, do you have any kind of like deformity or anything, or are you just think
um,
you not like, yeah?
well, I mean, I'm a ginger.
Oh, that's not a big deal. Yeah, that
That's a big deal. That's massive.
it's really not a big deal. Like this is the kind of thing where I like some of these fucking ideologies. I don't know if I can persuade you otherwise, but I know plenty of gingers who do just fine, right? Like,
Well, like
yeah,
Ed Sheeran maybe.
you don't have to be a fucking famous person to do fine as a ginger.
Mm,
So
I
let me
don't know.
let me tell you something, right? Because this is the kind of thing I often feel like there's something I want to tell someone that they aren't ready to hear. So I don't know why the fuck I bother saying it, but I will say it, and maybe at a later point it'll resonate with you. I guarantee you that if thoughts like that are all over your mind, like your
Mm,
inferiority, your inadequacy, your worrying about like things like whether you're ginger or not, that is fucking over your success vastly more than actually being ginger. I will guarantee that, right?
mm,
Because the thing is like the like look, you have to have certain standards in place. Like you should be, again, should be like fit and whatnot. But like at the end of the day, like the biggest thing is how you make a girl feel when she's around you, right? And like if you have kind of like toxic shit going on in your mind, right? Like you're having these negative thoughts, you're just putting that out there. Like it's going out into the ether and it's seeping into everything you do. It'll seep into your mannerisms and it'll just create this, it's like almost like a fucking energy field, dude, of just like negative, and it will just repel women. And then you'll ascribe it to being ginger and go, oh, it's because I'm ginger, right? So
Mm,
I don't know if you agree with any of that, but I think there's a lot of truth to that.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm it's kind of interesting because I'm like half mgtow. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
actually incel. Well, I'm not. I mean, mgtow is kind of a a a powerful word. I'm not trying to associate with the actual mgtow movement. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just more like half voluntarily. Like I wouldn't like so that means that I would, for example, have sex with sex workers, but I wouldn't have sex with like women uh uh that I'm not, paying or whatever.
Why is
But
that?
well, it's because I think the sexual marketplace is kind of unfair. But I mean, yeah, that's just the intuition I have. I haven't actually.
Well, wait, it's unfair. So if there was a woman who wanted to have sex with you who wasn't a sex worker, you're saying that you wouldn't do it?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it because
And
I feel like
yep.
so either there's two options. So either it could be a really really ugly woman that approaches me. So like say a two,
No, no,
and
no,
then
no.
I'm like
Sorry,
a
that's not that's not the situation I'm going. Just say, forget how you get in the situation. Just say, just dial in these features. She's a normal, attractive girl, and you didn't pay
oh
for it.
okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah, well, that's the second option. If she's an attractive woman and then she has sex with me, then that means that I'm taking away an attractive woman from another guy. So I'm basically am trying to look out for men's sexual success, basically, because I think it's unfair right now, and we have a lot of incels and virgins and stuff.
Wait, what? Whoa. Okay, that is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. I can't tell if are you being serious?
No, I'm serious.
Okay, yeah. Well, again, don't be offended. It's just a very foreign thought for me to hear. Like, cause
Well,
I'm just picturing, like, what, like, why would you, why, wait, but I thought you
because
yourself felt like you're not getting a lot of
yes.
success. So don't, I mean, even if you hold this view of like the people at the top of the pyramid need to like give something back and have less sex, which I think is like, I don't
mm,
agree with that. But even if you had that view, you're not one of those people. So why would you need to do that? Why can't you just be like, oh,
mm,
okay, I got some sex, good.
well, well, it's because I want other men to do it. It's kind of like uh, like I want other men to look out for my sexual success and not, take these attractive women. Because that's like an unbalance. If an ugly guy has sex with an attractive woman, gets in a monogamous relationship, etc., then there's going to be like a attractive man that is instead going to have to search for a uglier woman, and then like uglier women can have sex with the more attractive men, which means I'm
Okay,
still fucking over ugly men.
wait, okay. So say that we just, for the sake of the of the like hypothetical or whatever, we just buy that someone gets fucked over like no matter what, right? Why
Okay.
why are you saying it has to be you who gets fucked over?
Well, it's not me who gets fucked over. Like, uh,
Well, yeah,
like,
you're saying I want to be fucked over in the sense of not having sex
well,
so that someone else
it's
doesn't get fucked over, right?
yeah, it's that. Well, because I think that if a a certain amount of men do that, like then we wouldn't have this problem.
Oh,
And then
okay.
at that point, I could have monogamous relationships. It'd be fine. I don't,
Oh man. Okay, so here's another question. Say that humans are not psychologically constituted such that you could ever expect enough of them to do that for that to work. Say that you just knew that was the
mm,
case. Would you still act in the same way?
that's you see, that's an interesting question. I would say yes to that,
So if
but
it's like a moral duty to you to act in the right way even if it has no tangible effect anywhere.
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying it's. yeah, it's like morally good, not, but it's not morally bad to not do
I'm
what I'm doing.
oh man, see like this is just so strange to me cuz like the way I think about it is just like look, if there's a hot girl who wants to fuck and I like her and we have good chemistry, why wouldn't I? Like, why would I think about, some other fucking dude? It's like just manage your own shit. Other people can worry about themselves. Who cares?
Well, because it's like I feel like, um, especially earlier in life, I was a lot more ugly and felt even more depressed and more sad. Uh, so I know what that feels like, and I don't want other men to be like, uh, screwing my, like, the women that I would have had if the system wasn't unfair type deal.
Yeah, so you're like
And so
you're like picturing yourself in other people and going, I would make someone else feel the way that I felt if I
yeah,
were to have sex, so I won't do it.
yeah, it's like if I see a girl that it is the same, has the same, what's it called, the sexual marketplace value as me, right? And that could be anything. That could be any trait. It could be personality, whatever. Um, if I see a guy who has a higher SMV than me, go up and ask her out, or she asks him out, like, and that guy agrees to it, he's basically making the system more unfair for me because now I have to lower my standards, kind of deal.
I mean,
If that
look,
makes
I
sense.
have a sense of where you're coming from. I guess I'm not sold on a bunch of the empirics here, but I'm just trying to think like even if we accept this as the case, like I guess I just don't understand. Like it would be really hard for me to want to behave in this kind of way. Like I mean, I would way rather just go like, look, I'm gonna do what's best for me, and I'm gonna set a positive model, right? And then
Hmm.
hope other people can learn from that and then have success in the same way. Like the way I view it, like I mean, maybe I'm just a not as nice a person as you, Bruffin, but like if there's some guy who's all fucking mopey and sad because I fucked some girl he likes, too fucking bad. I don't give a fuck. Like that guy, it's completely on him for having. Well, I shouldn't blame him because maybe society kind of put it in his head, but he's the one who has some fucking toxic thoughts going on, right?
Well,
It's really
but
what should happen is just let me finish the sentence. That guy,
okay.
what I would rather do is get that guy thinking in a positive way so that he can actually have results for
Hmm.
himself and be happy about them instead of me denying myself results so that he can remain happy in his negative little reality. Fuck that. I don't care about that.
But if it was the case that you didn't fuck that girl, he would have been able to fuck that girl. And if you haven't, well, if you did fuck that girl, then he wouldn't have been able to. Then would you feel bad fucking the girl or not?
No, I wouldn't care remotely. Obviously, I would fuck the girl. I wouldn't care at all.
Even if she was like less attractive than you, and there was a girl that
Well,
like
wait, no,
was on the
I'm
same.
assuming in the hypothetical we're talking about a girl that I actually want to have sex with, right? If it, I don't,
Oh,
yeah, I don't care about having sex with random ugly girls just to make other guys like suffer or something like. Obviously,
I meant
no.
like on the same level as you, attractiveness wise. Like whatever you are, you know, uh, like how attractive other people think you are compared to how attractive other people think this girl is, type thing.
You think
Like
people
you're
should
gonna
be
find
kind
her
of
attractive.
you think people should be kind of in these like attractiveness casts almost like only like having sex with people of their caste? Like is that the kind of
Well,
view?
well, not necessarily. Well, you just I'm not like a cast, but you can just kind of use common sense, and I wouldn't want to, like try flirting with the homeless, crack addict girl from like, that's homeless or whatever. Like,
Yeah, no shit. But
well,
that I mean
even no,
that
because
surely that has to do with her being a crack addict. No,
no,
don't
no,
you think?
no, I'd be attracted to that women, to those women. I do things, and I'm attracted to like most women, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that
But I wouldn't
that's
want to
yeah.
do that because that's messed up. Like
Um yeah.
there's this picture of the it's kind of mean, but the ugliest woman on the planet, and then
Mhm.
she's in a relationship with an average looking dude. It's like Jesus. Like imagine being the ugliest man in the world. You're in a classroom with her and you're like, "Oh shit, you know, I might have found my my uh girlfriend here or something." And then she's just with this average looking guy and it's like, "Dang. That's kind of now he's like a perma virgin for life." Sort of. I mean, yeah.
I guess like I think we just have very different like attitudes. We also have different views about the reality of this stuff, but like
Uh
even when I try to step into your picture about the way you're looking at the world, like say we take this view where it's like, yeah, it's just this really harsh competition and only 10% of guys get to like have like success in any meaningful way. It's like,
hmm
yeah, okay, so put yourself in the 10%. Like, why the fuck would you be like, I sacrifice myself to the 90% so that some other guy can put his dick in a girl's? Like, what? Like, why would you do that? Why not do what's best for you?
okay.
And
But I
the other
mean,
thing is, I have to say, I am a tad skeptical of if it really is selfless, right? Because a lot of the time, people who take on mgtow ideology or like a lot of
yeah.
this incel stuff, or you know, in your case, like this like I am not having sex because it's like the morally right thing to do. A lot of the time, it's like a cope, right? It's like if that person just had their ducks in order and could get sex easily, would they really think in this same way? Or is this a way to like feel
Yeah.
okay while not having the success that you actually on some deeper level just want to have, right? I don't
Yeah,
know, but
that's
that's what it seems like.
yeah, that might be true. Like, I feel like if I got more opportunities, I probably wouldn't have done this. I mean, I hope I would have, but
Hmm.
yeah. But
Well, do you
anyway, I want to
actually okay. Well, just before you go on, like the thing
yeah.
is like do you actually have any idea like how to get laid if you want to, or is it just like does that just seem like a mystery to you?
Oh, well, I have a yeah, there's a um I know roughly the process of how you're supposed to do it, right? Like you aren't supposed to just go up to a girl and ask for sex, right? Like you have to maybe, you small talk, become you're like talking to each other every day, maybe. You ask her out, but it doesn't have to be a date. It could just be, you want to go mini golfing or something. I don't know. And then feelings could develop from there, and then you know, you could ask for dates, you could, you know, kiss or something on the dates. I don't know. Just rough idea,
Yeah, that's a bit like a bit romanticized. Definitely a bit more of like if you take that. Well, so like I can tell you right now that if that's the kind of picture you have, getting casual sex is going to be extraordinarily like well, maybe I don't want to say anything too strong, but it's going to be hard, right? Because you will be coming off very much as like a boyfriend type guy,
hmm
right? Like if you're like, I'd like to talk every day, build this like important kind of emotional connection, take you mini golfing, like you're very much coming off like boyfriend, like I want to
hmm
date, not like let's fuck, right? Like so in terms of if that's an answer to like how to get laid, it's like that's like a 4 out of 10 or something, right? So the other thing here is that like you could actually like there's actually like a process to doing stuff like that, right? Like
Yeah.
you could actually acquire the relevant skill set, and then I kind of what I want really is this is what I would recommend for you, okay? If I just had if I could dictate your life for like a few months, right? I would be like, just put the ideology aside for a second, okay? Like, just don't think about the ideology. Just for a little while, we're just gonna not think about that, okay? What we're gonna do is the following, okay? We're gonna eat healthy. We're gonna get in really fucking good shape, build up a good routine, make sure we're on top of our studies, get all the ducks in order, right? Just the basic shit. And we're going to focus a bit on getting good at just getting girls to like us, right? Like basically, just to put it bluntly, like you're just gonna get laid, okay? And like a few times, like a chunk of times, right? And once you're at like, like 20 or 30 or something, reflect at that point, okay? And then look back and go, okay, now with this context, with actually being someone who has the option of success if I want it, how do I feel about all this ideological stuff that I thought a while ago? That's what I
Yeah.
would recommend, okay? Acquire basic success in that
Hmm.
domain, and then once you're there, reflect on it, because it's highly likely that a lot of your thoughts are just like the product of, on some level, like not having success, thinking you can't, trying to cope with that, etc. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I'm trying. I'm definitely I'm trying to improve in that
Yeah,
area. Uh, and yeah, so I mean, in the future, I feel like I might get less, like a lot less insecure about the way I look and stuff.
sure.
And I think that, those like I might get, a couple opportunities in my life that I'm not even searching for. Who knows? Uh,
Yeah, well, let me say another
yeah.
thing. Like something like hair color or like freckles or whatever, that won't fuck you over at all. Okay, that's not a big deal. What this again, the thing that can actually fuck you over is if you're deformed. That will fuck you over, okay? Like
Yeah.
if you're like, okay, so the only other thing I want to say is just, if the goal is to get laid, like obviously like there's like a whole like kind of like science to that shit, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's people who talk about that, you could like learn the details from, but just a quick note is like your picture is like way too romantic and like boyfriendy. So like if the goal is just to like just like crank out a few numbers just so you actually know what's fucking going on, you have an idea how to get laid, you can get girls and then reevaluate things, right? If that's the idea, not so much boyfriendy shit. Like what you really like, you don't really need
Uh-huh.
that. You can just, even just with something like Tinder, right? It's like get in good shape, get like professional,
Yeah.
good quality photos. You'll get a good amount of matches once you're there. And then it's really, you don't need all this mini golf and all this shit. It's just, you need to just learn to flirt and build a good connection and just make a girl horny, right? And when you can do that, get a girl to into you, like sexually, kind of get the vibe going and shit, and then just sort of know how to like make things happen. Like that's really all you need to get laid. If you're seeking a girlfriend, then you can start thinking about the mini golf and the like building like this far more intimate kind of connection and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, there
Okay.
there's like a bit of advice, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk next about some things James said, and I understand that
James,
you
like
weren't
like
there.
soft James, like the one who I banned from the
Yeah.
server.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
god, you interact with that fucking idiot.
Well, I used to. He blocked me, which I was pretty upset about, but and banned me from the server. But anyways, uh, so you weren't there for these conversations, so I don't expect you to, be making statements about James in relation to like, you know, the stuff I'm claiming he said, because you don't know if it's true, right? So
No, and
like I'm not
just for the
expecting that.
record, before you go on to say it, like it's easier to just talk about the ideas than talk about the ideas in the context of a person, right? So like I don't give a
Yeah,
fuck
yeah,
about James, just whatever the yeah.
yeah. That's true. Also, yeah, we don't even need to mention any names, but so I actually pointed this out because I watched your video or I watched one of your debates about subjectivism, moral subjectivism.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, so here's what happened. So we had this person, he was talking to someone about,
Well, I'm not saying
uh,
you literally have to not say James if he's part of the
okay,
story. I was just saying like okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Just sometimes people
yeah,
think that they need to keep talking about it's this person's idea and that person's idea. And it's like just say the idea. But no, if it's actually a story and it involves the guy, you don't have to fucking censor out his name. Like yeah, sorry.
yeah, okay, I get it. So James is having this talk with someone else, on whether or not most people are moral objectivists or not, or subjectivists or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
he said that he thinks that most people are moral objectivists, right? And then he said, so he said his position, that's his position, and then he explained his definition for what moral objectivism is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, or something, later on, he said, "Yeah, I don't think most people would say. Uh, I think most people would say yes to the question. Do you think the Holocaust was morally wrong, irregardless of what the Holocaust guards think?" And so I pointed out that, hey, that's compatible with subjectivism. And then he said that, okay, well, um, you should have interpreted that statement as being not compatible with subjectivism. So like maybe you could interpret the term Holocaust guard to mean like every single possible subjective thought or something instead of a person that guards the Holocaust. And the reason why he said that is because he thinks the reason why it should have interpreted that way is because he explained his position on moral objectivism, and he explained like the definition of moral objectivism. I
Okay.
are you
I'm half following, but maybe I'll catch on as you continue. So
okay?
I understand that there's, yeah, the idea is
So,
most people are moral objectivists because they're going to say the Holocaust was wrong regardless of what anyone thinks about it.
of what? No, not what anyone thinks.
The
What the
Holocaust guards.
Holocaust guards think.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. If he said anyone, I wouldn't have pointed that out, right? Because
Oh,
anyone
okay.
could be like I feel like that statement could could not be compatible with subjectivism. But I feel like it's kind of bad faith, or it's kind of weird to uh like. So he said it was ridiculous for me to point that out, and I just think it's not ridiculous for me to point it out. It's very simple, but
Can you
we
just
argued
explain
about it
what
a
you
lot.
pointed out one more time just so I'm sure I follow you?
I pointed out that
It's
answering
compatible.
yes,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, that it's compatible with subjectivism to answer yes to that question.
And just how exactly are you seeing the compatibility there?
Well, because I think someone could say, well, me as a subjective, like my subjective interpretation on the moral status of the Holocaust is different than the other subjective interpretations, such as the Holocaust guards' subjective interpretation. So the Holocaust guards, they disagree with me in their subjective interpretation,
Oh.
right? I have my
Oh,
own.
okay. I see what you're saying. Sorry, let me just say it back to you so I know that I'm following. So you're going that's compatible with subjectivism because this person could just be saying, "Yeah, I think it's wrong regardless of what they think, but not because I think there's some mind independent fact of the matter or something, just because
Yeah,
I have a preference against it."
yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
perfectly reasonable
so,
to say, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I
look, I don't know the
really,
context, okay, and I'm gonna not be like biased towards James here because I don't like that guy. I think he's a piece of shit. But it's possible that there's some context, and given that context, it makes sense for him to be annoyed. But yeah, just absent
mhm.
any other context, yeah, I mean, it's just you pointing out like a quirk in what was said. It's not actually incompatible. We just need a bit more detail before we're gonna say it's incompatible. That's fine. I don't really see the issue there.
Yeah, it's really confusing because yeah, I don't because I know for certain that's I like he might have I might have misremembered another reason for why he said it's uh um ridiculous for me to point that out, but
Hmm.
I do like uh visibly or not visibly like auditorily remember that clearly that he said um, most people would answer yes to that question to back up his original position, which I
Yeah,
just don't see any defense for at all.
you don't see any
Like,
defense for the notion that if that's true, most people are objectivists.
well, if no, because I would agree with that using his interpretation of, I guess, the statement, then I would agree that that's the case. If most, but that's only if most people who answered the question interpreted that way. But I think it's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it
Uh,
doesn't sound. Oh, sorry.
uh, no, it's, yeah, I don't understand that. I wanna. I mean, you're saying you don't like James and stuff. I mean, would you if I, which I'm not probably not gonna do this since he banned me and everything, but I did uh ask him before if he wanted to talk to you, like if I paid you another $100 to have a you could have a chat with him or whatever,
I'm not
if
particularly
you'd be down.
inclined to talk to him. No.
Okay, all right,
Yeah. I mean, and I don't
I
really know.
understand that.
Like, you just want to see someone just debunk that claim. Like, is that the idea? Or
Sort of, yeah, but it's another thing too. So he got um, there was some good reasons for him being annoyed about this, that I'm not going to talk about, uh, because it was some tangential stuff.
Sure.
I just want to talk about the idea. So, um, basically, I was talking to someone, I was debating someone,
Mm-hmm.
and we used entails in the debate, and so he said A entails B, and A was um, having the mindset, and B was doing all you can. And so he was saying, well, A entails B, and then I said, hold on, is there a hypothetical scenario I could come up with where A doesn't entail B? So like where you could have the mindset and not be doing all you can. And
Yes.
so
Right.
I and so basically I was using entail at, in a lighter kind of way. I was using it as just B necessarily follows from A, but it wasn't in all contexts. So I was basically saying that it's possible for A to entail B in one context and not another,
Yeah, that's
which,
kind of a weird use of language, but okay.
yeah.
I think you mean
So,
something like, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, so basically, uh, it's just my interpretation at the time, because I've looked this up and stuff. I have a different interpretation currently of the term entails. Uh, but my interpretation at the time was just that it B necessarily follows from A, which could be true in different contexts, right?
Well, even
That's correct, right?
necessarily also like necessarily is still in the same ballpark as like entails, right? Like if you
Really?
say yeah, like when you say necessarily, if you like, so basically there's these different modalities. A modality is basically a schema for cashing out the meaning of terms like impossible, possible, necessary, etc. So
Hmm.
if you say something's necessary, typically people will assume you're talking in a logical modality, which is just to say that if it weren't the case, there would be a contradiction, right? So if you say something is necessary, it's not like, oh, it's like sometimes the case, right? Like it's going to be that it's always the case, because if it weren't the case, there would be a contradiction. So necessary is in the same kind of language ballpark as a word like entail. Now I don't
Well,
know. I was just gonna say one other thing. I don't know exactly what the conversation was, but you probably meant something lighter, like implies or like tends to be preceded by or something like this. It's just entail and necessary. Those are like very strict like logic words.
okay. Well, I would basically just follow up the statement with, so I would say, for example, A could be walking on the on the sidewalk, and B could be being pelted with rocks. And then I could
Mm-hmm.
say, well, in this hypothetical scenario where uh, it's possible for, unrealistic hypothetical, for you to be necessarily pelted with rocks. And then also another possible unrealistic hypothetical, and where you necessarily don't get pelted with rocks. Say there's like no one
Yeah, that
in this
that
universe or something.
yeah, that's not a good way to say it, because when you say it's necessary, but it occurs in one context and not the other, right? That seems
Well,
yeah. I
I'm
think you can
saying,
just drop the word necessary though, because like when you say
okay,
necessary, that means basically it's a contradiction if it's not the case. So another way to think of necessary is true in all possible worlds, right? So it doesn't make sense to say that A is necessary, but there's a possible world where A is not true, right? So I think what you want, like literally the sentence works the exact same if you just remove the word necessary. You just say there's one hypothetical where if you walk on the road you get pelted, and there's another where if you walk on the road you don't get pelted. But if you say there's one hypothetical where you necessarily get pelted if you walk on the road and another where you necessarily don't, well, the word necessary, it's like the effect of that word is to quantify over even more possible worlds. So it spreads into the other hypothetical, right? So that
okay.
language gets a bit weird in the exact same way as the word entail does. So yeah, I
Hmm.
wouldn't use the word necessary.
So just to be clear, would you say it's false? The the statements I made? that it is in this world it necessarily uh like you will necessarily be pelted in this world you won't necessarily like that's false.
Okay, well, before I answer that, it depends because look, what well, it's ironic that I would say it depends after talking about necessity, but I take it that when you were saying necessary, you didn't have in mind the meaning of necessary that I just gave. So,
Mm-hmm.
according to the way that a philosopher would typically understand the word necessary, yeah, it's false. It doesn't make sense. But
Okay.
according to the way that you probably were understanding it when you were talking, right? It's probably not false because you probably didn't mean by necessary true in all possible. Like obviously you weren't meaning by necessary true in all possible worlds because then you would have just been saying, well, here's a possible world where it's true in all possible worlds that P, and here's another possible world where it's not true in all possible worlds that P, right? Obviously you weren't saying
Mm-hmm.
that, right? That's what it reads like to someone who's kind of immersed in like the philosophy lingo. They're going to hear
Mm-hmm.
necessary in a certain way. So
Okay.
basically this is the disambiguation I'm making here. In terms of how a philosophy person will interpret something like that, they'll interpret it in a way that yeah, it doesn't make sense. But in terms of what you probably were actually expressing, right? Because your statement, the words you put out there, are not the same thing as the proposition you're trying to express, right? The thing you were expressing, I don't see a reason to think that was problematic. Because I don't think you meant necessary in that kind of way when you're saying that. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of um uh like I understand the whole true in every possible world, and if I use that interpretation, it wouldn't like that would be false. I understand that. For me to say that. Trying to well, so basically, what I wanted to do was I wanted to debate James on this, on whether or not A can entail B in certain contexts. And I was just gonna point out that, hey, I was using, well, actually, I need to go back first because in that conversation, James was messaging me, basically like saying that what I was saying was like really dumb, and that explaining what entails means and how it his interpretation of it uh that it like it doesn't make sense for me to say that A entails B, I could that the way I was using entail just
Yeah.
didn't make sense. And so I just in this debate I just wanted to basically say, hey, I was using a different interpretation. Under my interpretation, do you think that uh um that it is true for A to entail B in certain contexts? And then I would grant that under his interpretation, uh, it is true that A can entail, or it isn't true that A can entail B in certain contexts. That's kind of what I wanted to do, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I'm just looking at like sometimes it's good to get a sense of the folk meaning of a term.
okay.
Um, yeah, like I'm just looking at like dictionary definitions, like something transmitted as if by entail, to impose, involve, or imply a necessary accompaniment, to confer, assign, or transmit for an indefinitely long time. So I mean the folk understanding is a bit different, though you do see words like necessary show up, but
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing though, Bruffin. Like that just sounds like a semantic dispute to me. Like it sounds
Hmm.
to me like what you were saying is probably fine given your meaning, but according to the meaning that a lot of philosophers would hear when they hear those words, it's not fine. And you're not disagreeing with that, and they're not disagreeing with you, right? All parties are going to go, it makes sense according to this
Hmm.
interpretation, and it doesn't make sense according to that one. So that's when you just have like a semantic dispute, right? And
Hmm.
if it's just a semantic dispute, this probably not worth debating, right? Because no one's actually disagreeing
Hmm.
there.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I was kind of.
you can salvage your honor completely fairly though by just saying that yeah, like I wasn't using it like that, right? It's perfectly
Mhm.
reasonable. Like there's no reason to think you must have been using it in the way that it's used in philosophy if you're not like some fucking huge like philosophy head, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Like,
that
yeah.
was probably a point I was gonna make too. Is just that I, I sadly the messages were deleted and stuff,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure he was insulting my intelligence or something. And I think that's just kind of cringe for someone to uh I don't know, use insults when someone else has like a common, like that's literally the first definition of entails. And then we can search up the definition of necessary. And it, according to those interpretations, like what I said made sense. But then he goes on to insult my intelligence and like this is just a ridiculous idea that A can entail B. It's not, it's just tangential or whatever. It's not a, whether he was correct or not
Yeah, you're just
correct.
saying
But
it's
I
a
think
dick move.
that's,
It's like why do that? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the context again, like maybe he had some other reason beyond that for being more annoyed, or
Hmm.
maybe he was just being a douche and like I don't know, I get annoyed with people often, so I'm definitely not, the nicest person out there, but yeah, I mean, I don't see a reason to like really rip on you for it. It's just like you were using it in a different way. Doesn't seem like you were saying anything too crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't be too upset about it though, because like the one thing, like I guess for me, this was a kind of like easily learned lesson because I have like a channel and whatnot, so I get a lot of feedback from people who are just fucking completely toxic.
Mm.
But there's just always gonna be people who are just fucking assholes and who are just like
Mm.
shitty and just have these like uncharitable interpretations of you, and it's just a matter of like, how much time do you really want to give those people, right? Like there's circumstances where it's merited. Like if you think that someone's a fucking asshole but they have a good criticism and you need to understand it, it's like, yeah, probably you should give them your time. But if it's just yet another person who's just being a knob on the internet, like who the fuck cares, man? I wouldn't even think twice about it. Like if you feel satisfied with your understanding of the situation or the concepts at hand, makes sense to you, you know,
Mm.
I don't really even, it doesn't even seem worth spending more time on, frankly, unless you just really want to like, well, I guess I don't know your motives, but yeah, I'm just pointing out, it's possible to just go like, okay, well, I think I understand what happened there, and yeah, fuck it, it's not worth thinking about anymore.
Okay. So with your new video about saying that you should stop saying that you can't prove a negative.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I I have a question. I
sure,
didn't actually watch the video, but
okay.
I've heard this argument or this point. It's not really an argument. This point from Luso, and
I
it,
think I
it
know
kind of
that
convinced
name.
me.
I feel like
Yeah.
I've heard that name
Oh,
before. Yeah,
I
go.
think he got banned in the server. I'm pretty sure
It's a lot of
for
people have been banned. Yeah.
yeah. I think it was for some like James questioning
Oh,
ban
yeah,
stuff.
that's just gets you banned instantly, yeah. If you question bans, you just get, banned. You can always request an unban. We don't like perma
Hmm.
ban for ban questioning really, but yeah, like, and just for the record, the reason for that is just we don't want the general channel to turn into a debate with moderators, right? Like that's just it's boring for everyone, and it's also it kind of sows like like it sets up an environment where people think that the rules are up for discussion, right? And it's like in a sense they are, in the sense that you can email and you can privately engage about it, but it's like we don't want the main space to be a debate about the way the server is run or to be a big moderation conversation. It's just boring, it's shitty, nobody wants that. So yeah, anyway, the guy can
Okay.
always seek an unban, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, so uh he was saying well, basically that well I want to ask you about this.
Mm-hmm.
Um so when you say that when you say stop saying that you can't prove a negative, do you mean do you do you hold the position that there's like no negatives that you can't prove? Do you think there are some negatives that you can't prove?
Well, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't have a bunch of negatives there. It could be that there's some that are logically impossible to prove. I mean, I'm sure there probably
Okay.
are. Like, say, yeah, if you make a negative statement where the thing that's negated is a contradiction, how are you going to prove that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's probably like cases like that you can find, but no, like the point is just that look, like the video basically is just this, okay? It's just like we might think of negative in two ways, like any statement where the main operator is a negation sign, or a bit more charitably, any statement where the main operator is a negation sign, then the next operator is a existential quantifier, right? And it's
Mm.
just there's clear, and also there's two senses of proof, right? We might talk about a strong proof, like, deriving something from the axioms of math or logic, or a weak proof where we're just deriving it from other, like, generally accepted premises. And there's four possibilities there, right? You could have a variety one negative proved weakly, or a variety one negative proved strongly. You could have a variety two negative proved weakly or proved strongly. And it's just easy to find examples of all of those, right? Like, and these are things that you'll encounter, like, just in a completely, like for instance, like, you prove negative statements in, like, a introductory discrete math course. Like, you might prove that 8 isn't a prime number, right? Or there's no prime number in this particular range, or there's no, like, there's logical things you might do also outside of math, like there's no married bachelor. Like, these are all negative statements, right? And they're all absolutely provable, and in some cases strongly provable from, like, the axioms of logic, right? So yeah,
Mm.
the idea is just that it's not the case that you can't prove a negative, right? There's obviously examples where you can. So people shouldn't be
Do
saying
you
that as a way to let themselves off the hook.
do you think that God could be an example of one of those negatives you can't prove? If, for example, maybe the God is like they can't like they can defy physics, they can defy you know a lot of things. They could be anywhere, anytime, doing anything. They could not be here. They could disappear for a little bit. They could show up again. I don't know, something like that. Do you think that would be impossible to prove the negative that he doesn't
Well, we have to
exist?
be we have to be really careful about what we're meaning when we say things like impossible, right? Because it sounds like what you're talking about is a concept of God where it's very difficult to see how we could possibly prove a thing like that doesn't exist. It's like you just can't picture what the proof would look like, right? So that's not a situation where we want to use a word like impossible or can't, right? That's more like the kind of situation where you just want to say, I have no clue what the proof would look like. Can't is when there's some kind of, like, logical barrier to being able to do it, right? Because can't is a modal term. It means it's impossible. It
Yeah.
means a contradiction is entailed. If it were to be the case, a contradiction would be entailed, right? So no, I
Oh,
wouldn't I
okay.
wouldn't use the word can't there, but yeah, I could picture a God that's defined such that it's just totally unclear how we'd go about proving that such a thing doesn't exist.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense.
Sure.
Um, okay. So I mean, do you think this? Well, I mean, do you think this would be a analogous kind of example to the subjectivism objectivism James thing? So, like, say for example, I'm having a conversation with someone, and I say, uh, saturated fat is unhealthy, and any food that contains saturated fat is going to be unhealthy. Uh, and that's my position.
Mm-hmm.
And then I explain what saturated fat is, and then I say, oh, well, for example, peanut butter is really healthy. It's not non-healthy or something. I say that maybe. Um, and then someone points out, well, peanut butter has saturated fat. Then I'm like, wait, hold on. Well, I'm talking about whenever I say peanut butter, I mean a food item that doesn't contain saturated fat. That's my interpretation of peanut butter. And that you should have interpreted that statement. You should have interpreted that word in the statement as such, right? And it's ridiculous for you not to have interpreted that, or for you to point for you to have pointed that out, that peanut butter contains saturated fat,
Okay, so
because I explained my position, or explained what saturated fat is, and uh, explained my position on it.
unfortunately, it's a bit opaque to me because I just don't know shit about nutrition. Like, peanut butter has saturated fat in it, I assume. So it might not have been the best example for me,
Oh,
but
well,
so I
it,
don't,
it
yeah.
does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if someone was talking and they were making it sound like anything that has saturated fat in it is bad, and then a minute later they say something that has saturated fat in it is good, then yeah, you would be like, you would certainly not be unreasonable to say, wait, like how do you reconcile that with the thing you just said? So if the point of comparison there between that and your clash with James is just that there's an instance where the confusion is like perfectly reasonable given the way someone was talking,
Hmm.
it's like sure, seems reasonable enough.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Um,
Okay, that's fine. Well,
hmm.
yeah, I mean, well, if you have anything else, you're welcome to think it up. But
Oh, yeah. Well, there's one thing. So, I mean, this is just kind of, I think, I don't know if you've ever used this tactic before, but when someone uses name the trait and they say humanity, and then,
mm-hmm.
you ask what humanity means, kind of, uh, and then if they use the answer like oh, well, they're biologically humans, so whatever scientists, they have this DNA that they use to determine whether or not a being is a human, and if that being has this DNA and it has this these organs that scientists however they classify human beings, whatever special stuff we have, uh, if that being has that stuff, so we're biologically human, then that's the trait. And then, like, for me, at that point, I would just like to point out how that is kind of ridiculous on its own to value that. Like, you could say, oh, so the thing that's stopping you from killing this being and treating this being like with respect and not killing it is the fact that its DNA is slightly different. It doesn't have it could be the same intelligence, the same everything. It's just the only thing that's different is literally the shape of its body and the the color and the texture of its body and the DNA structure in the being. Like that prevents you from chopping its head off. Or that's your decision for where you do that. I think that's kind of, I don't know, effective to maybe point that out.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like
Be-
a sorry.
No, yeah, that's it. I just
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty silly to me. The part that strikes me as more silly is like when you say, it's just whatever the scientists end up saying. It's like, well, wait, are you just saying that like if the scientific community started using the mouth sound human to refer to like a rock, that like your moral view would like shift accordingly, and you'd start saying it's fine to
mhm.
stab like your mom, but it's like not okay to like stab like some boulder somewhere or something like.
Yeah.
And that just sounds kind of hilarious. But yeah, if it's not
Mm.
literally just about what they say, it's just like we take the current definition and whatever that is, that's what you care about. Yeah, I mean, it seems like kind of silly to me because you can just say you had something that had the exact same subjective experience as the kind of beings that you value, but it just didn't meet that criteria for being human, right? It's like, well, then suddenly you don't value that thing anymore. That seems pretty fucked up. Like, for instance, that could be you, right? Say we have some little scanner that we develop, and when you scan something with it, it tells you if it is if it has DNA that falls within this like range or whatever that we're calling human. So imagine we scan you with it, and then it beeps and goes, no, you don't. Like there's some other thing has happened here. Like maybe you're like
Hmm.
genetically altered, or maybe you're actually a clone. Like, are you telling me that you're not placing value on your actual like subjective experience? Like you'd suddenly like you'd go from like being in this Discord call, like thinking about what you're going to eat later in the day and like having plans for the rest of your life and like
Uh-huh.
you to just saying, yeah, I guess you can just stab me to death. The beeper went off. Like that seems fucking crazy, right?
Yeah, because if you tell them about that, they might say like, well, about the scientist thing, they
Mm-hmm.
might say, well, if the scientists change their mind, then I'm just gonna have my own opinion on what makes a being human. But then, like, you're not a scientist, right? So your your understanding of that might be wrong. I like one, tiny uh piece of gene information or something. And then you like all your life you just you live your life thinking that it's morally acceptable to kill these beings, but you're one of the beings, and like all humans are, if that makes sense. Like I don't know.
I'm not for some reason I'm not sure. It might be me who's not understanding. Like, you can just maybe say again?
So like say for example you think, okay, well beings that have this gene expression, we just call it like T40 or something. They have this gene, this DNA, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a scientist, so I don't really know how to explain these things very well, but they have this gene that's called T40, and it's morally acceptable to kill beings that have T40. That's like what that because that's them coming up with their own whatever
Yeah.
understanding. But
Right.
then like what if that's wrong by just one digit or something? What if human beings actually have like their mom, them, they have the T40 gene instead of the,
Yeah,
T30 or the other ones.
so like the idea is like, what if it turns out that humanity, like as defined by the scientific community, doesn't cover beings that we would like obviously want it to cover? If it were supposed to also serve as a criteria for value. It's like, is that the
Yeah,
idea?
yeah, well, not even the scientific community, just the person answering name the trait who's saying, like, who's criticizing your, oh, well, the scientists could just change their mind. They could, that's their explanation.
Well, no, I would take a different road with that. Like, if the response, if they said it's whatever the scientists say, and then I say, well, what if the scientists say something hilarious, right? If their response is like to say, well, no, in that case, that would not be the meaning that I'm committed to, right? Then I would just say they contradicted themselves, because a
Yeah.
moment ago they told you that that is the meaning they're committed to. So now I don't even know what they're talking about
Uh,
anymore.
yeah, I didn't think about that. That's true.
Yeah,
But
like if they
also,
say it's whatever the scientific community says, and then I say, what if they said this? And they say, oh, well, it's something other than what the scientific community says. It's like, wait, what the fuck? It's a contradiction.
okay.
Yeah.
I actually have one more thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time.
So, I think you, um, I've been kind of, I don't know. I've debated people like this a lot, and it's kind of intimidating whenever they're constantly asking for definitions to terms, right? Because
Sure.
a lot of the times you can run into problems when you just think of a definition on the spot,
Yeah,
like
of course.
especially with words like, I don't know, bad or funny or words like that, like because you could run into uh, you could obviously they could reductio you if you use certain
Mm-hmm.
if you miss I don't know if you're if
Yeah.
what you explained your interpretation is, if that's not accurate, then they could use it to reductio you or whatever and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like when you were I just wanted to ask about this because when you were debating that one guy who said that uh, vegans are bad people.
Oh, has.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
infrared.
you, yeah, you said, oh, or you asked for a definition for bad, and then what he did is he gave you a criteria for something being bad, but
No, what?
you
No, he
weren't
didn't. What?
satisfied.
No, he
What?
didn't. What do you mean he gave me a
He
criteria
said,
for?
oh, he 100% said it. He said that to be to be good. Well, he also said to be bad. He was like to be bad, or no, is to be good. You have to have a certain relationship with humanity, and then basically so
Oh,
that
no. Sorry, I thought you meant to like something that would serve to like get the concept into my head. Saying you have this property of badness under certain conditions isn't explaining to me what the property is. Yeah.
okay, so you aren't satisfied if someone says that, like
Well,
they
no,
have to
like
give the
I think that there's, so no, I'm not. If they're telling me that bad means something else than what I'm thinking it means, and then they're trying to use the term, but they're not able to clarify at all in any way what they're talking about. No, of course I won't be satisfied with it. And just saying you have it under such and such conditions, right? it's not necessarily going to clarify to me what it is. It's possible that somehow I would grasp what it is from them saying something like that, but that certainly didn't happen there. But I want to address kind of the underlying thing that I think you're getting at here. So it sounds like you're suggesting that there's something unfair about expecting people to be able to define their terms, right? Like, it's hard to ever really do that. So is that really like a fair thing to request of him? Is that the idea?
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a misunderstanding here about what's going on. So I don't expect people to be able to give like rigid, precise definitions or anything like
Mhm.
this. And I don't even necessarily like I guess that this is the problem, okay? We need to have a shared understanding in order to converse, right? You agree with me about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for most terms, it seems like we have enough understanding that we can just talk, right? Like all the words I'm saying right now, it seems like we're sharing enough of an understanding that we're able to communicate with each other. But say that I say, Bruffin, the sky's blue. Do you understand what I just said?
Like, yeah.
And then I point at the color blue and I tell you that is not what I mean when I say blue. Do you now know what I
Mhm.
said when I told you the sky is blue?
No.
No, right? And it's not that you are being some kind of unreasonable asshole by asking me to clarify it. And by the way, I didn't say it has to be a definition, right? This is a side note, but I fully accept there might be terms that are primitive. There might be terms that have highly complex definitions that can't be stated in like human time or something. Like maybe they would take an eon to describe. There might be, just concepts that are just really fucking hard to define for whatever reason. So I wasn't necessarily asking for a definition. I was just asking him to somehow get the concept into my head. And so it's the exact same impasse we'd be at with the blue thing, right? You're not being unfair by asking me to somehow get into your head what I mean by blue. You're just saying, like, look, dude, I'm trying my best here, but for me to understand if what you just said is true, that the sky is blue, I do need to know what you mean by the word blue, right? And if you're telling me my understanding is wrong, I'm just not sure what you're even talking about. So you have to either like convey it to me somehow, or we're just kind of at an impasse where I can't tell you if I think that's true or not. Does that make sense?
Um, yeah, sort of. I mean, if so in that example, I guess if someone gave it, so someone could say, I mean, if there was some way to create colors or something, and they explained like, oh, well, to be this color, to be blue, you have to be able to be made with X and Y or whatever. Like you just make colors with different light angles, and they're just, with if you you can create this color if you just do X and Y with the uh uh glass, whatever, mirror angles. I would feel like that's not a definition. You aren't explaining exactly what the color, like you aren't showing me what the color is. You're just giving sort of a criteria for something being the color. And I feel like that would be a reasonable answer to make me understand what you're saying at that point.
Well, there's ways other than defining something to convey it to someone, right? Like when you say like what's a school bus, right? Like I could try to give a definition of school bus and be like it is a like, yellow like eight-wheeled, do they have eight wheels or six wheels? Six-wheeled object that like picks students up and like drives them, like, I could try to do something like that. Or I could be like, um that big fucking thing that like goes by your house every day at 8, right? And that's not a definition, but they're going to know what I'm talking about and then be able to match it and go, that's what school bus means, right? I'm not in any way opposed to that, right? But someone could also fail to do that, right? They could also fail to do that in a way that communicates the concept, right? They could be like, well, it's the thing that is at like, like Oxon Square at like 2 p.m. every day, and you're like, you've never been to Oxon Square, so you're just like, well, that doesn't help, right? So you can picture. So this is my
So
point here: is that I'm not insisting that a definition be provided. I just need to get the concept into my head. I'm open to that happening in whatever way, but it's just ultimately got to happen. And I'm not saying anything that's not a definition just is an automatic fail to get it into my head, right? But nonetheless, you could give something that's not a definition and fail, right?
Okay. Well, so you're saying the answer that he gave wasn't, it didn't get the concept in your mind, basically.
No, you want to go watch it? Like, what was? I don't remember exactly what he said, but we can try to watch it right now, even.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me bring it up.
It wasn't too far in the conversation where you
No,
asked,
I
and then
know
I
what you're
think he.
thinking of. I remember the moment. I just don't remember what he said. Okay, so let me think. So, okay, I need to, just for the recording's sake, okay, I'm gonna put this to the display,
Okay.
and I think I can, wait, that's the display. Oh yeah, okay, nice. And then I think that, to have the voice widget on, okay, now it should be able to see us talking, and I think I can share my display with you in here also.
Okay.
Screen one, and is this going to share audio? Sound may not be available. Okay, I don't know if you're going to hear. Do you hear when I play this? The Destiny and we're talking about
All right.
on a stream?
Is there supposed to be sound?
So
on that?
basically,
Yes, yeah,
I
you don't
hold the
hear anything.
position that
No, I don't hear anything.
Damn, is there a way to do that in Discord? I thought there was a way to do sound. Fuck. Okay, well, I'm just gonna watch and just repeat back what he says. I'll just find the part because I
Okay.
know what you're talking about. You had asked me a question, but setting aside whether that's true, I don't think that answers the original.
debate.
Okay, well, and what does bad mean?
Vegans are bad people because they think animals and humans on the same level.
I said, what does bad mean? And he says, vegans are bad people because they think humans and animals are on the same level. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's that, and then the other statement he made.
You want me to
But
just
that
keep...
one,
Is it right after
that
this?
one also. No, it might be later on. But what do you think about that?
Yeah,
Does
that
that
doesn't...
not answer
no.
your question?
not
It
even
does,
remotely.
It doesn't.
No, how the fuck would
It,
how would that tell me what he means by bad, right? That's compatible with bad meaning something he doesn't like. It's compatible with bad being some kind of robust, like, moral realist thing. It's capable with bad being
but
like a, it could be like some non-cognitivist thing, right? It's like it's completely unclear what bad means. I just know that he's categorizing some particular thing as bad.
but doesn't it show you why he thinks that thing is bad?
Why he thinks it's bad?
Because he said.
Not necessarily, because I don't know what he means when you say bad. I don't know what he means when he says bad, right? So it's like, does that tell you why a thing is bad? Well, wait, we're still stuck in the same problem. By bad, do you mean whatever he means by bad? Because if so, I still am not even clear what that means.
He's like, what did he say again? To be bad, you have to have a certain. What did he say?
I'll play it back one second. What do you want to debate? And what do you want
Vegans
to debate?
are bad people.
Vegans are bad people. You hold the view that vegans are bad people. You hold the view that vegans are bad people? Yes. And what does bad mean?
Vegans are bad people because they think animals and humans on the same level.
Okay. So he's explaining, like,
I asked, what does bad mean? He says, I think vegans are bad because they think so and so. That doesn't tell me what bad means.
well, yeah, but doesn't, like, I still understand how that doesn't, how it means, or how it's true that doesn't show you why he thinks vegans are bad.
Well, you wait, but when you say why he thinks vegans are bad, right? What does bad mean? We're not talking about why he thinks something is bad, right? Like, he's giving
Okay.
a reason why. That's the whole thing he's saying right there. He's saying they are garbledygook because so and so, right? I understand that the reason that they're garbledygook is supposed to be so and so, but I don't know what the fuck garbledygook means, right?
Okay. Okay. But you don't think that's enough material to like work with
No,
Garbly-gonk or whatever?
what do you think? No, I have no idea.
Well, because you
Like
could.
it's odd to me that you would think that that clarifies what he means by bad, right? Like that's compatible with a bad being construed in some robustly real way. That's compatible with bad being construed, non-cognitively or subjectivistly, right? Like that's not clarifying at all what bad means. It's just like it's going to underdetermine all of those different meta ethics.
Okay.
Right, like let's just
Um.
start. Let's see if I can get you on my page here. Do you agree that that statement is compatible with both the understanding of bad, or at least it underdetermines whether the understanding of bad in question is non-cognitive or robustly real?
Oh, it doesn't do that. Yeah, it doesn't. It's
It
not
does
compatible with that.
underdetermine it, or you think it's not a case of underdetermination? You think that you saying you think it's clear which he's referring to there?
I don't think it. I think it's not clear.
Yeah,
What she's referring to.
right. I agree. Yeah. Okay. So I misunderstood you. Yeah. So yeah, it's underdetermined, right? And that's what I'm saying, right? Like I can guess. It's not like I have no idea at all. I doubt he thinks bad means contains ice cream or something like this, right? It's like
Hmm.
I don't have literally no idea, but the range of things he could mean is still far too large for me to know if that proposition is true or not.
Okay.
I mean, you're free to push back, like, or think about it and push back. I'm not expecting you to agree here, but like this,
No, I mean
yeah.
I agree with what you're saying so far. It's just I have like sort of a different deal, like a different thing of, well, you still could have continued. You still could have talked about, like there was enough material to work with. Like you could have talked about um uh his position a little bit or something. Like you could have um I don't know, maybe uh tried to point out how or why you don't think that um reason for why he thinks that something is bad is uh is true. So
Well,
like you
no,
could say,
that
well,
might no. Well, wait, there's a problem there because it might be a perfectly acceptable reason for thinking something is bad, depending what he means by bad.
given his interpretation, you could say it is. But given your interpretation of bad, you could say that um it's not true under, you know, that or something.
Well, I just take bad to mean something that I don't prefer, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that I couldn't. I mean, I could do a whole ton of things, right? But yeah, I could just say that like what was his reason again that they think human yeah, like if vegans think humans and animals are equal, that's not a reason that I don't prefer being vegan or something like this, right? But
Uh-huh.
I don't really want to have a conversation like that, right? Like that's not really of interest to me. Like I don't want to when he says I want to debate you on this proposition, I don't want to have a debate about a half-baked proposition. Like that's just not something that interests me. I want to know
Okay.
exactly what he means, and then if I disagree, I'll debate him on it, right? Like this is the kind of thing, and I think this also might be why you would like in part think that someone like Destiny or Vosh is like a good debater or like enjoy what they're doing,
Mhm.
right? Like people like that are just fundamentally different than people like me and Avi. Okay, like
Mhm.
we don't like to have these like half-baked conversations where it's not even clear that there's disagreement or what the disagreement is, right? If someone comes to me and says I want to have a debate, I'm expecting them to be able to spell out a proposition that we both understand the meaning of and that we have different attitudes about the truth of, right? Like that's what interests me. So could I do something else, right? Could I proceed by just assuming he means whatever I mean and just talking about what my preferences are? Yeah, I could. Do I want to? No.
Yeah, I don't think that would you'd really be debating about his like the proposition he wanted to debate on. Like you want to be like uh you want to be arguing whether or not that is true or false by doing that. I
Well,
think.
and this is my interest here is like, look, this is kind of like the level I'm at with a lot of this shit now, okay? My view is that a lot of people are not even worthy of getting a debate, right? They're not even worthy of me interacting with them at the level of hearing what their arguments are because their
Mhm.
whole shtick falls apart from a semantic analysis, right? It's like someone like T Jump is a good case of this, someone like Darth Dawkins, someone like Has, right? Like, if you can't even get through the basic hurdle of being able to communicate your meaning to me, right? There's no fucking way that I'm going to honor you with looking at your arguments, right? Like that's just comical to me. So someone like Has, right? Like if he comes in and starts to challenge me, like some guy coming in here all cocky, saying basically
Mhm.
he wants a piece of me, and here's the thing he wants a piece of me on, and I can tell he doesn't even know what the fuck it means, that's absolutely the thing I'm going to point out, right? I'm not going to engage in some half-baked conversation. I know that I can secure the win easily just by going in on this topic right here. And the thing is, at the start, I don't even think my intention was necessarily to secure the win. I think it was just I'm just going to see what he means. But once it became obvious that he was just kind of being a sophist, right? Like he just wanted to just blow past explaining what his terms mean and just launch into a discussion and then try to argue with me on whatever turf he felt comfortable with. No, at that point I was like, well, I think I'm just going to kind of humiliate this guy, right? Like I'm just going to show he doesn't even know what the fuck his proposition means. So, yeah,
Okay.
summing up,
Well,
I'm not going to honor someone who can't even clarify what the fuck they think they're disagreeing with me about by looking at their arguments. I'm going to point out that they can't even explain what they think they're disagreeing with me about.
okay, so now I'm wondering what your intentions would have been if he would have provided a definition. So if he were to say,
Yeah, I can answer that.
um,
You don't even have to go further. If he had have provided a definition and I understood what he meant, what I would
mhm,
have done, because keep in mind, just from the start, my intention was very positive here. It only started becoming, I'm gonna kind of make this guy look dumb once he started being a twat, right? Like if you listen, I'm perfectly friendly to him from the very start of that conversation. But yeah, what my intention would have been if he had have provided a clear definition, or if not a definition, just somehow communicated to me what he meant, such that I understand what he's saying, right? And a way to do this, just keep in mind, I have an understanding of bad myself, right? I just think it's about
mhm,
preferences. If he had have signed off on that, I would have talked about that, right? So just to be
mhm,
clear, this is not some like AY throws up the insurmountable roadblock. It's like I have a definition. It's just like with blue, right? You mean something by blue. If I tell you that's not what I mean, you're not throwing some insurmountable block at me. You're just going, wait, I don't have your concept then. What do you mean? Right? It's
mhm.
just a natural reaction. So yeah, to answer you, if he had have clarified what he meant, whether it was by saying, yeah, I just mean the same thing you mean, or by giving a definition, or just somehow getting the concept into my head, whatever exactly it is he means. And for the record, again, before I answer, the reason he couldn't do this is almost certainly because he doesn't have any fucking clear idea of what he's talking about, right? Like this guy just seems like a sophist. I don't think he has any interesting thoughts about meta ethics. I don't think he has any idea what the fuck he means when he says bad. I think he just has half-baked bullshit and just wants people to engage with him on that. But yeah, if he had have said what he meant, conveyed it to me somehow, then naturally my reaction would have just been, okay, now I'm going to think about the proposition again, vegans are bad people, with the meaning that I now have attached to bad that he provided
Mhm.
in my mind. I'm going to see if I disagree with the proposition or not. If I agree with
Yeah.
it, I would say, well, there's not really anything to debate. I think that's true. So we can debate something else if you want to, but yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. If I think that the proposition is false or I'm agnostic about it, then I would have said, well, if I was agnostic, I would have said, okay, yeah, I'm not convinced that's true. So sure, let's hear what the argument is. Or if I thought it was false, then I very likely would have said, oh yeah, I think that's false. Here's my counter argument, right?
Mhm.
So summing that up, the response would have been to put his meaning back into the sentence, then evaluate the sentence and go, do I believe that, disbelieve that, or am I agnostic? Then respond accordingly by, if I believe it, saying, I agree, we don't need to debate, you want to talk about something else. If I'm agnostic, asking for the argument. And if I think it's false, either asking for the argument or providing my own counter argument.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could still, if that was my debate opponent, I'm still disagreeing with him on some stuff. So we're disagreeing, not at like not at the proposition he gave, but we're disagreeing at like what stuff we prefer. So obviously he wouldn't, if he used the preferred definition, he doesn't prefer vegans who, think that humans and animals are equal. But you prefer that, or you don't not prefer
Well,
it or something.
wait a second, but there's a problem. So if we just want to have a chat about our preferences, right? Or if we
Mhm.
want to try to persuade each other to change our preferences or something, like, we could have those kind of conversations, but what he asked for was a debate, right? A debate, there actually has to be something that's in contention.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
if there's not something in contention, it's not a debate, right? I don't know what the fuck I would be. Like, are you saying you just want me to have just continued like just chatting?
well, so I mean, if you, I would. So like the debate would be over, right, about that on that proposition.
Yeah,
But
to
you
be
could,
clear, let me just stop you right there. If both
yeah.
parties, if he just said, like, if he dropped the idea of trying to make that proposition happen, or whatever, like, if we just moved past that, it would need to be clear, right? It would need to be clear that that topic was sealed off. Like, I'm very, systematic about these
Mhm.
kind of things. Once I have it clearly in my mind that either we're not going to talk about that anymore. Okay, forget about that proposition. Let's talk about something else. Or one of us concedes to the other. Then I'm happy to move to the next thing. But I don't like, I'm just not the kind of person who likes to have these waffling conversations where someone brings up something, right? And then when they can't make any sense of it, I just let them waffle off, right? If he wants to say, never mind, let's abandon that, sure, we can move on and either have a debate about something else if we can find a proposition of disagreement, or just chat about something else. But I think you and I might have just different preferences here. Like, I don't like these like meandering like Vosh Destiny style conversations. Like, I hate that shit with all of my heart, dude. I passionately hate it. When someone says debate, I want to know what the proposition is that they disagree with me about, right? And if they can't spell it out, the conversation, as long as they're keeping it on that topic instead of abandoning that, is just going to be, well, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, so why don't you clarify this proposition for me? And if someone doesn't like that, I mean, I'm just effectively a robot like that. That's the kind of person I am. If you don't like it, I'm not the kind of person to talk to.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you appreciate or you like embarrassing your debate opponent, then I think there's some utility in
Well, I
questioning,
don't.
like,
I gotta,
oh,
sorry, I gotta stop you again. I don't just like that full stop, right? There's a point where I like, look, if some person, like, say that you come in here, right? You seem like a perfectly nice person. You say, "Hey, I disagree with you about so and so. Let's like have a debate about it and we can do it like in front of some people." Like, I'm
mhm.
not going to at all be motivated to like make you look stupid or embarrass you. That's like the fucking last thing I want. The only time that I get interested in embarrassing someone is if they start being a fucking douchebag. And so, just to be clear, no, I don't just want to embarrass anyone I debate. It's something that comes up specifically when a person is being a piece of shit.
Okay. Well, do you
Yeah.
think that person prior to not giving the definition, do you think that person was, being a douchebag or anything?
No, I don't think so. But
Okay.
that conversation, I was just reacting to what he was saying, right? So when he was saying, I want to debate this proposition, I was responding by saying, I don't know what you mean, right? He responded more on the same topic. I kind of continued, right? I don't know what you mean. Right? So
Okay.
I'm being reactive there. I'm not like proactively going, well, I don't know what we're talking about here. Let's go to some other topic. I could do that. I'm not really interested in doing that. Like, I was just reacting to what he was saying, and it would have been completely fine with me if he had have said, "Okay, maybe this isn't going anywhere. Let's go to something else."
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I understand that actually. No, the I guess because for me, oh, hold on. For me, um, like I'm not like that. So I like, you know, embarrassing people and stuff. Probably just, I don't know. I'm like insecure about stuff. I don't know. I like doing that.
You
Um,
mean even it's just some guy who's like completely good faith and just trying to debate to learn something? You want to embarrass that guy?
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, we are. I would never. I'm very different like that. I would never want to do that. People
Okay.
think I'm like some huge asshole because I will be an ass to people who deserve it, but no, I would never do that to someone who just wants to debate to try to learn something. Like that would be terribly mean of me.
Okay. Yeah. So, but we could say if it was the case that you like it, if it was the case, I want to do that. So what I would do at that point is there's still room, there's still stuff for us to talk about. So first off, I would question whether or not vegans actually think that humans and animals are on the same level, which I think that's false. I think I could
Hmm.
wreck him a little bit on that, right? And then I could wreck him on like freaking whether like thinking even if you think that it's kind of absurd for in my opinion for it to be against your preferences for so well maybe using his definition like using that definition for bad um it like
What
some
definition?
things
You mean his
well
that
the
what? Yeah, like, I don't know what the fuck he means.
no but I mean the definition like being against your preferences like
Hmm.
sometimes that can be kind of weird when you're using that with bad. Like if you're saying it's against your preferences, like is it against my preferences for someone to eat feces on their like in their backyard or something like 300 miles away from me where it won't affect me like kind of like but not like I would say that's kind of against my preferences but
Sure.
I don't know if it's bad like
Okay,
it's not
but
morally wrong.
you're yes, but see, you're entering the territory of now. I would ask you, what do you mean when you say morally wrong? If you don't just mean what's holy fuck.
uh,
Sorry, if you don't just mean what's preferred.
okay, yeah.
Because you see how you create a separation there, right? When you say something can be bad despite being what you prefer, I'm like, well, now I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay. I guess I would. Well, then I would want to know whether or not he thinks uh, that specific instance of um, that position going, someone having that position going against his preferences is actually like morally wrong, or just morally neutral, but it's a bad. He thinks it's bad, but morally neutral at the same time. Because
Yeah.
if he thinks it's morally wrong to and bad to hold that position, then I'm gonna point out how I think that's ridiculous. Like it's ridiculous to just have the thought. Like you could be a completely nice person, treat everyone respectfully, but you just have this thought in your head that humans and animals are like equal. Like I don't think that's morally wrong. Like I would point out how I think that's ridiculous. And if he
Well,
disagrees with me, then I could, you know,
yeah. Well, let me say
I
one
don't
or
know,
two things.
recognize
So,
it.
yeah, so like first of all, it sounds like you just have different preferences about how to proceed in a conversation than me. And that's fine. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with you having different preferences. I mean, it's ironic to use the term wrong. Like it's I guess a bit wrong because I don't like it, right? But I
Mhm.
probably have a stronger reason to not care, and that reason is just that I want other people to be happy and free and do what they want, right? So, it's like there's like some pro tanto wrongness there, and that I don't like conversations like that, but to just meander around and whatever. But yeah, overall, like you're free to have whatever kind of conversation you like, and if you like that kind of conversation, that's fine. Me personally, like I'm more systematic. You'll even notice that I noticed the same false claim as you and drew attention to it, right? In passing,
Mhm.
I said something like, well, setting aside the question of
Setting
whether it's
aside.
true that vegans act, because obviously that's false, right? But
Mhm.
again, like I'm very systematic about these things. Like my focus is like it's like a fucking like a one track mind on this. Like I hear debate, I go, what's the proposition? Someone can't clarify the proposition. That's all I'm focusing on. Any other stupid bullshit in there, I'm just gonna kind of put aside, or maybe acknowledge and then put aside, right? Like that's just a different
Okay.
way of proceeding. And then I also want to
Okay.
say, I think one part of why you're a bit more willing to proceed, I mean, first of all, it sounds like you have just a bit of a different disposition than me, but another thing is it sounds like you might be like a moral realist, right? Like I don't exactly know what you're saying, but you seem to be comfortable with the use of terms like bad outside of the context of just talking about one's preferences. So, I mean, I if you share some kind of understanding like that, like I'm skeptical if you guys really share an understanding and how much you'd agree if you started trying to spell out what bad means, but if you're under the impression that you do share one, then of course you wouldn't object by saying I don't know what you mean by bad, right? That would be like if I knew what you meant by garblegark, I'm not going to say what do you mean by garblegark, right? So there might be a few things at play there for why you would proceed differently. Maybe a different disposition, maybe you're a bit of a moral realist, so the language doesn't sound as fuck to you.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a moral realist. I mean, are we talking about moral realism? Like you mean moral? There's moral facts exist, and moral statements can be like true or false outside of any subjective interpretation
Well, yeah, I mean, I
of.
take realism to be probably the conjunction of three theses. Like, moral statements are truth apt. They at least one is true, so it's not error theory, and the truth maker is not it's external to people's attitudes, something like that.
Well, I think that's compatible with being a subjectivist, though. Like
No,
for you to say,
that's a contradiction, right? On subjectivism, on subjectivism, subjectivism is the conjunction of three theses. The first two are the same there. Moral statements are truth apt, at least one is true, but the third is actually the denial of that proposition, right? The third thesis in subjectivism is the truth maker is people's attitudes, right? If the other theory goes the truth maker is not people's attitudes, right? That would be a contradiction if you said both subjectivism and realism as defined are true.
well, I think if I'm in a conversation or a debate with someone, and I think that killing babies is wrong, is morally wrong, I'm not going to say, well, it's true that I think that killing babies is morally wrong. Like, I would probably say it's true that killing babies is morally wrong. And then if my opponent were to say, it's morally neutral to kill babies, then I would say that that is false. I'm not saying that it's like an
Yeah, I don't
objective
see
thing.
see I don't do that because I think that once we examine the language, it's not actually clear that they're saying something false, right? So it's kind of like there's this level where it feels like natural to say you're saying something false, but you're just opening yourself up to just get annihilated if someone knows how to like push on that properly, which even if your interlocutor doesn't, there'll be people who actually understand philosophy in the comment section who will, right? Or who watch the video or whatever, or maybe who are listening.
Mm.
So yeah, like I don't understand what that kind of language is supposed to mean, right? Like if we say that something can be wrong despite being what you prefer, I just am not clear what you mean by wrong. Like what do you think it means to say I prefer, what was your example? Eating feces? Like it's wrong even though I forget your example. Let's just
It's
take a rant. Sorry.
it's not morally wrong for a
Yeah,
person
it's
to eat
not morally
feces 300
wrong,
miles
but you
away.
have a preference against
But
it,
I would
right?
pref-
Now, like
yeah.
I can tell you how I would understand that. Like I would understand that as you saying you have a preference against people eating feces, but you probably also have some other preference that cuts against that in another direction. Maybe like letting people do what they want or,
Yeah.
other people being
Well,
happy. So it's not all things considered wrong, but your dislike of the action is a pro tanto reason towards its wrongness.
I understand that. It's kind of like saying with the term want, like I don't want to exercise, but you on some level you do because you you're at the gym and you're exercising or whatever. Like
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
exactly. Like yeah, all of those kind of things. I take that it's just like a competition of different interests. And when you're saying I don't want to exercise, but you're at the gym exercising, it's like, well, it seems like all things considered, you have reason to exercise, unless we're positing that you're like, being like mind controlled or something, right? Like it seems like your all things considered reasons are to exercise. So when you say I don't want to exercise, you're actually just expressing one of your pro tanto reasons against it. Like, oh, it means if I have to get out of bed earlier, like I have to like feel the sensation of like my muscles like hurting as I like lift
Hmm.
weights or whatever, right?
Yeah. I guess you just have to it like it would sound kind of silly to say like, "Oh, I want to exercise. I want to go to work." But then when you if someone asked you about it, you could clarify it and make sense. But kind of like on the surface level, it would seem kind of silly just to say like, "Oh, I can't, I can't wait to go to work today, because I don't want to be late. I just I want to go to work like really bad, when you hate work and you hate the working environment there, you're just miserable.
Yeah, but that's all that's going on there is just you associate that sentence, like I want to go to work, with talking about maybe like your enjoyment of the actual task itself, right? Whereas like your
Hmm.
reason for enjoying work in this case is presumably not that you actually really enjoy whatever you're doing at work. You enjoy like the fruits of
The
being there,
money.
like having money or say, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right? So I think this is just a case where like the natural language, we're typically talking about our enjoyment of the actual action itself. So it sounds weird to say I really want to go to work when in fact you don't enjoy the action, you enjoy some result of the action or something like this. But when we actually like just take a moment to disambiguate what you mean, it seems to make total sense.
Yeah, that's true.
But here's the thing:
Mm.
when I give that kind of construal of like how the eating shit stuff works, do you think that's what you mean, or do you go no no no, like my preference is against people eating shit, but it's like all things considered preference is against people eating shit, and it's still not morally wrong. Because if you're saying that, that's back into I don't know what you mean.
Okay, well, yeah, so all things considered, I wouldn't have a preference against it.
Yeah. Okay.
If
So
we're, because then,
yeah.
yeah, because I have a preference with people, you know, doing whatever they want to themselves, if they're not bothering anyone else type
Yep.
thing.
Right. So, but here's the thing, though. So, if for you it all does cash out in preference language, you're not a moral realist. Then don't you realize you could get into this whole conversation and have this big disagreement with like Has or something, and then like 1 hour into it, it gets disambiguated what you guys are meaning by the terms, and it's like, oh, we don't even disagree, and then you've spent all this time just like kind of like pointlessly arguing or like saying he's wrong when he's not wrong, and like doesn't that sound like something you wouldn't want to happen? Because that's exactly the situation you're setting yourself up for.
Well, yeah, that would be if he doesn't actually give a definition for the term, but
Wait, what? Sorry, you lost me right there. If he doesn't give a definition for no, yeah, I mean,
for the
I
term
mean,
bad.
I mean, if you proceed in a conversation with him, and you proceed under the understanding that bad means something different than what he takes it to mean, and then it comes out later in the conversation that you're just using the word differently, then everything you've been saying just doesn't hold, and it's you may as well not have even said it. 'Cause it's fucking like, well, none of it lands anymore, right?
Yeah.
To me, like, I mean, you might not care. You might just be like, whatever, I'd still have fun talking. To me, I'm like, well, that feels like a waste of time. I don't want to like run that risk. Like, fuck that.
Mm.
Because some of
I'm
this is
saying,
also, sorry, just like some of this is also like debate experience, right? Where like I've just had a lot of these conversations, and I just know what it's like for your whole line of reasoning to just fall apart because there's this ambiguity that you let slide at the start of the conversation that gave them a weasel out like from the get-go that was always sitting there just waiting for them to take it and erase all your work, right? Like I know what it's like to not remove that and then have that fuck you over later. So it's like part of this is informed from like previous debates, right? There's other things I do, like I don't. Did you ever see my video where I responded to Cosmic Skeptic and his Matt Dillahunty thing? That whole fucking fiasco.
oh, yeah, I think I watched it, but I didn't really follow what was happening. I don't think I was paying too much
Well, one of the points that I made in
attention.
there was I just said that um, Matt was frustrated with Alex for not giving a direct answer, and Alex was saying, well, like my answer was pretty clearly implied, and I was going, well, I kind of agree with Matt, because the thing is, like, when you ask someone, like, look, answer this question, like, I am, look, it's annoying enough if they don't answer clearly, but even if they clearly imply an answer so much that everyone in the audience is going to go, yeah, they're implying yes, right? That's still not good enough for me. And it's because I've been in so many of these conversations that I know even if someone implies the answer yes with all of their being to a point that every fucking person is going to think that that's what they meant, if you don't make them say the word yes, later they're going to try to weasel out of it. At least there's some meaningful amount of people who will, right? So, part of why I operate the way I operate in debate, I think it's very like, it's like opaque. Like my reasoning is very opaque to people who haven't themselves actually done a shitload of debating. And if you have, then maybe there's something else at play here. But it's like some of these things of like forcing very clear, unambiguous yes no answers, or like not allowing a conversation to proceed, even if it seems like it might be fruitful, if there's some fundamental unclarity about the proposition. Like, those are the kind of things that I do because I've been in so many of these situations, and I know the liabilities that are going to be there if I don't do those things, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess now I wanna ask, going back earlier to earlier thing, like, um, I think he said that it was ridiculous for me to have said, for me to have used entail the way, or for me to have said, or to imply that A can entail B in certain contexts and can't entail B in certain contexts. Like, under my under my interpretation of the word, like, so say for example, if someone said it, um, someone if someone's definition of Holocaust is like hugging babies, and then they
Mm-hmm.
say, well, babies love Holocaust. Do you
Yeah.
think it's ridiculous? I mean, obviously, I feel like their definition is ridiculous, but I don't think it would be. I think that them making that statement wouldn't be ridiculous. Would would that would you say that's true, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, like there's some level of silliness of them using a term in such a radically proprietary way, but I
Mhm.
actually think that I still wouldn't, like, yeah, it doesn't seem ridiculous, but your original case with entail is even stronger because the public meaning of entail seems like, like ambiguous enough that your usage isn't like clearly out of line with it. The Holocaust example, even though I still agree with you, is like a bit worse because everyone knows very clearly Holocaust doesn't mean hugging babies, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's just to
no, no,
make
yeah,
my point stronger, kind of.
I,
Just like,
yeah.
even under this insane situation, we would still say it's ridiculous or it isn't ridiculous for the person to make that statement.
Well, yeah, I
But
mean, it's not ridiculous given their meaning, but the misunderstanding people have is fair enough. But if your concern is were you being ridiculous in your use of the term, well, it doesn't seem like it to me because it's just obvious you weren't using it in the kind of strict like formal sense,
okay,
right? Like
well, yeah,
yeah. Like
yeah,
I
in
would
that
assume you don't even have you didn't even have a perfectly clear meaning at the time, right? Like the colloquial
mhm.
understanding is not even like, I think sufficiently clear for philosophical purposes. I think it just means something roughly like implies or like, is like maybe it kind of like causes or like maybe like comes with or something like, it's like you were using it in some kind of loose way like that. So
Mhm.
obviously it's yeah, there's nothing ridiculous about you saying what you said because you weren't using it in the way that would cause that to be ridiculous.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else. We
Yeah,
covered
totally.
pretty much everything.
Yeah, I feel like normally with these I go for usually like an hour a bit. We went longer, but it's fine. Like I don't know, I've enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, I don't. You seem perfectly reasonable. I wonder what was the why'd
Well,
you get banned? What happened in here?
oh yeah, so I was um hold on. Maybe I can give you a message link so we can read it together. If that's fine.
Yeah.
So it was Mr. Seitan's the one that banned me, and I think he thought I was like trolling or something, and annoying. Uh, I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to like, if we're gonna talk about it, I don't know if I'm allowed to like question his uh
Well, yeah,
ban.
you're talking to me in private. It's fine. The ban questioning
Okay.
stuff is in general. Yeah, it's like in the general areas of the server.
Okay. All right. Let me
Yeah,
post it.
post it in Realm of AY. Do you see that channel?
Yep, I see it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
post it in
ping it.
there.
That's the end of it. That's like where he banned me.
So
Or if you
okay,
scroll up a little bit.
yeah, I'm just looking at some of this. So if I only upload my wins to YouTube, it would be logically impossible for me to lose any future debates. No, you're only uploading wins I have. Intuition AY archive isn't that. Yeah,
So
I
we're
mean,
talking. I was talking about basically like AY, you and Avi being like debate gods, and you know how like you aren't able to, you can't lose because I should have said this in the Avi conversation, but like you can't lose debates or something, or if you want, I mean, if you want to, you can, but like I don't know. He thought I was
well,
trolling.
oh, okay. Well, yeah. So
I
just
think.
because you seem like a nice guy for all I can tell. I'll talk to Satan about that because I think maybe it's a misunderstanding. But if he has some deeper gripe with you, I give the mods pretty free reign. It's kind of like they do the
Hmm.
mod work, so I let them kind of have free reign. So I'll raise it with him, and he might very well just go, oh, okay, I don't fucking care. But if he has a further problem, you will need to resolve it with him. But he's not an
Yeah,
unreasonable guy. But yeah,
but
well, I was just gonna say to what you just said about the debate god thing. Like, I mean, it's not that you get so good that you can't like. There's plenty of topics I don't know about. There's plenty of things that if I tried to stake out a position, I wouldn't win. It's just you get to a certain point where you get a very good sense of when you're about to tread into territory where you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you just learn not to do that, right? So if there's any not losing, it's like because of shit like that.
okay. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, yeah. I mean, I feel like it was kind of. I mean, obviously, you don't know the full context, so I'm not expecting you to respond adequately to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't expect that from you. But I just feel like it was kind of ridiculous because I said my position, and then he kept asking me questions about it. And then when I went deeper into my thought process, and I told him like, because he got mad, and I was like, "Hey, you asked me this. I'm just answering what you're saying and stuff." But he kept asking me questions, and like, uh, I was just answering them, and I don't know. It wasn't like I was, "Hey, at Mr. Seitan, this is my positions, blah blah blah," like trying to bother people or something. I don't know. But yeah.
Um, yeah, well, I understand your claim is you're just trying to here one second. I'm just gonna message him while I remember. Do you have an issue with Bruffin? Yeah, I understand your perspective is something like you were just trying to answer him and you weren't trying to be antagonistic. I mean, I don't know the whole situation. I'm not gonna go read it over and see if
Hmm.
that's true. I mean, I'm just gonna take you at your word because you seem honest enough. But we'll see what he says because it might very well be that it's just like it's not even a big deal and he just thought you were like being annoying or something and he doesn't really care. So we'll look into
Oh,
it.
and well, yeah, he's also uh annoyed at we were debating whether or not killing slaughterhouse workers is morally justified, and
Right.
he was like frustrated with me at that and stuff too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I
Uh,
assume you take
Probably
the
pretty
view
pretty reasonably.
that it's justified to just like murder these people or
Yeah, in the process, but I've thought
don't
about it a lot more. I definitely would like to talk to him about it again, but that's because I
Yeah.
think I made a lot of mistakes in our previous conversation.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, as far as that stuff goes, like, if you go to just an abstract situation, a person is going to kill an animal, you can prevent that by killing the person. Yeah, obviously that's fine. But when we talk about the real world and pragmatics, like, surely you understand that if vegans started just slaughtering like slaughterhouse workers, like, it would just, vegans would be like probably branded as terrorists, like, it would like be horrible
Mm-hmm.
public image, like, we saw how much people
Mm-hmm.
ran with it just when that woman who was like completely insane but happened to be a vegan or whatever, or had some crazy ideology, went and shot up like YouTube. Like, we saw how people reacted to that. Like, surely it's obvious that even if in an isolated situation in an abstract it's defensible, like, that if we actually implemented this as a policy, it would just be like completely fucking counterproductive, right? Like, do you disagree with that?
No, I 100% agree. But the thing I would say there
Yeah.
is, like, let's say hypothetically, this population of people, if they were to not, purchase animal products, then that there would be like another group or something that, well, because this group isn't purchasing animal products, we're going to kill like, a bunch of animals. So if you do consume animal products, you're actually going to, like imagine you're at a lunch table because you're at, I don't know, school or whatever, and there, if you don't eat this pizza, then I'm gonna buy like 7 pizzas. But if you eat this pizza, I'm not gonna, I only buy one or something. Like I think that's a analogous situation. If it's not,
um i'm not sure
then
i s-
I don't.
I'm not sure I understand the analogy, but I understand if one person is gonna, if you kill someone, then one person dies. If you don't kill them, like a shitload of people die. There's gonna be a point where you should just kill that person. Like, I agree with that.
Well,
Also, Bruffin, your
so
mic's gotten
at
all
some
fucked
point,
up. I don't know why, but you're cutting
oh,
out like crazily. Did you do something to your internet or?
no,
Okay, well, we'll just
um,
try to continue. I don't know why that's happening. It's possible it's on my end. Sorry, continue though.
let me unplug my or disconnect my headphones.
Sure.
Okay, can you hear me? Fine.
Yeah, yeah, I can.
Okay. So at a certain point, if because you're a vegan, right? Like you think,
I'll just tell you for your own sake. Your sound is completely fixed now, so those headphones might be a little fucked over there, man.
hmm,
Yeah,
interesting. Hmm.
yeah.
They
You're
used to
like,
I used
yeah.
to have pretty good mic quality on there. How
That's
long
weird.
has that been going on for? Like a while?
It wasn't happening really earlier, or if it was, it wasn't registering. It wasn't enough for me to like notice. But a minute ago, it's starting to go like you would cut out, and then it would like. I mean, you can hear it in the recording, I guess. So, and I'll send that to you. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was getting to a point of being inaudible. Yeah.
So you're saying if someone were to come up to you at lunch and say, at a certain point, if they were like, you know what, I'll buy like 500 pizzas, and there's gonna be like six pigs that are gonna die because you chose to not choose the pizza option instead of the salad or whatever, you would choose the pizza option. Is what you're saying?
Well, so just to be clear, there's some threshold where eventually I would, if you put that situation into like, like, so I want to distinguish talking about it in the abstract from talking about it in reality, right? So like in the abstract, if we dial in all the details and say, look, like at the end of the day, it's just you buy the pizza and one animal dies, or you don't buy it and this massive amount dies. Like, yeah, at some point I'm gonna say you got to buy the pizza. But when you
Yeah.
try to ask me in the context of that real world situation, there's just a ton of like flags that I want to bring up that would like kind of prevent me from saying yes until you dial them in. So I'm not mentioning these flags as if they're like an objection to the point in principle, because obviously I understand you can just like philosophy wand them out of the picture. But I'm just saying in the real world, these things would be relevant. So like, for instance, there would be a consideration of like, how serious is this person? Like, do they actually have the money to do this? If they're saying like, I'll do this action over a long period of time, like, can they actually be expected to follow through? There's a consideration for the demand threshold and like what the probability is that they actually trigger like a demand threshold. So there's like a ton of like pragmatic concerns there. But yeah, if you dial it all in properly, there is a point where I'd say yes. Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Wouldn't anybody?
yeah,
Well, I guess some people wouldn't, but if you wouldn't, you're just saying like you would just be happy to just let way more animals die, which just sounds kind of like evil. It's like you're basically
because
just being forced by some malevolent person. It's like you may as well just have some guy who has a gun to like a ton of people just saying like, shoot a gun at this person or else I'm killing all these people, right? Like that's basically the situation you're making.
yeah, so I have a threshold. I have a threshold too. It might be more than yours or whatever, but obviously, if someone says, "Purchase this hot dog," or else I'm gonna shoot up a school or something, I'm
Yeah,
probably gonna purchase a hot dog. But,
sure.
and I think it's morally uh wrong to maybe not possible. I don't know, but
Definitely.
uh,
I do. Sure, certainly do.
okay. Um, yeah, but I guess it's just maybe rethinking how much of a negative consequence that would be on uh like animal welfare in general if vegans were to do that, or to what, because like maybe if one vegan did that, it might have like the amount of vegans who do that might cause different amounts of harm. um but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well, there
it
sure, if there has to be a consideration for it, yeah, like in the real world, all of these things get considered. Am I setting a standard by doing this? If other people do this, will the good effects actually like diminish over time such that I don't want to set the stand? Like all of that shit can factor in. Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
But
I
I
just I
mean, because you think at some like in that situation, ignoring all the red flags and stuff, if someone were to say, I'll buy 3 pizzas, that's not a huge threshold. If you don't buy
no,
one,
I definitely would not
you
do
you
that.
wouldn't you wouldn't buy the pizza.
No, like so I don't have a perfect understanding of the math here, but the way I understand it is like directly buying a particular animal product has like a very low chance of actually generating more animal death. It's that there's production thresholds that trigger purchases, like at the supply level. So it's not really like if I go buy a hot dog right now, there's much chance that I'm causing any animal suffering at all. It's more like if I do that repeatedly, then the chance that I eventually trigger a demand threshold jump and cause like about like 900 animals to be killed all from that single purchase goes up and approaches 1. Have you done statistics?
No, I haven't. I'm still in high school.
Yeah, okay. I thought you would say no because you're in high school, but basically you won't learn about this quite yet. You'll learn about it if you do any stats in university. But there's a concept called a binomial distribution in statistics. And okay, I'm not going to really explain the details of the binomial distribution because A, I'll do a bad job, but also because it's probably not necessary. The point is just that buying products is actually a case of like we can set up how do I describe this without just talking about a binomial distribution? It's kind of hard. Basically, I do need to say a bit about a binomial distribution. So it's basically there's these things called Bernoulli trials, right? So Bernoulli trial is where you have a situation that can have one of two possible outputs. It's like either a true or a false. So like you can flip coins, head or tails, and each individual flip is a Bernoulli trial. So you can also have a ton of Bernoulli trials in succession, and there's some probability of heads or tails or yes or no or whatever for each trial, and then you have a probability that eventually you get a particular result a certain amount of times, and if you graph that out, basically like you get a distribution that's called a binomial distribution. So basically the important feature here is like with the animal product, so with heads, getting heads flipping coins on a bunch of Bernoulli trials, right? Like the probability of eventually getting a heads just approaches 1, which is like it's gonna happen, right? 0 is like never, 1 is like it's gonna happen. In stats, everything is between 0 and 1 basically. 1 is like complete certainty it'll happen, 0 is like complete certainty it won't. The probability of getting heads approaches 1, right? Like gets closer and closer infinitely the more times you flip, right? And there's something like this with triggering a demand threshold when you buy animal products. So the chance that one individual product triggers a threshold, and we have some data, we don't have a whole lot, but we know, I think, with chickens, a threshold is likely to kill about 900 chickens. The chance of eventually getting one goes up and up and up. So Avi ran some calculations and did the binomial calc and everything, and it's something like the chance of triggering a 900 chicken threshold in your lifetime is like, oh, it's like 92% or something like this. And then even on reducitarianism, if you, I think, set that up as eating like a third as many animal products or something, it's like 40 something percent. So anyway, I can't give you the exact details, as you can tell, but you should be getting this picture of like the probability of triggering the threshold gets higher and higher the more times you flip the coin or the more times you buy animal products. And if you trip the threshold with animal products, it's like basically committing like a genocide, right? Like, it's fucking horrible. So when it comes to the pizza thing, it's probably actually not that bad to buy the pizza the one time. It probably doesn't actually make a huge difference, but it's like the probability of it being bad if you do it as a strategy over time probably is really bad. I might be making some kind of statistical error there too, but yeah, so stuff
Okay,
like that would also be considered.
I think I understand. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they definitely aren't like killing chickens to order or something. It's definitely done like like by if a farmer has a given amount of space they can farm, and whether or not it's profitable to like expand their area or not. Like they aren't gonna have a chicken coop, and because of the demand, because I didn't purchase a rotisserie chicken, they're just gonna breed one less chicken into the chicken coop. Like they're gonna try to use the space. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's
Everything.
it's quantized basically. It's not like an individual purchase has a very low chance of triggering a demand increase, but successive individual purchases have a very high probability of eventually triggering a threshold purchase, which kills like hundreds of animals all at once. So I don't normally even talk about that kind of stuff because I think a lot of that is not necessary. Like, people just need to understand buy animal products, increased chance of fucking animals getting just brutally murdered. That's all they really need to understand. The only
Yeah.
time that you need to get into this kind of stuff is, well, I guess here's an instance where it's worth mentioning, but also there's this kind of argument people make called an inefficacy argument, where they try to say, well, nothing I do is ever going to actually make any difference, right? And like, if I buy one chicken, that's not going to do anything. So that's where you have to point out, like, well, yeah, that's true for an individual purchase, but when you consider them in a group, you get a binomial distribution, and the probability approaches 1 of triggering a threshold. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah,
as for
because
the
it could be.
pizza, no. A single pizza, no. But if I had reason to think that they're going to buy so much that it'll like trip a threshold, and I know that my purchase is not going to trip one or something like that, you could get a situation where it would be acceptable like that too.
Well, they would be buying 2 pizzas, so that
Oh,
they're
I'll just say
they'd
to
be
you also,
doubles.
Satan just responded. So he actually said that, yeah, he had some kind of issue, but he actually apparently had told you that you can come back after a cool off period. So I think you're actually fine. You can just stay in here.
Yeah, he said after a couple months I could come
Oh,
back.
okay. Well, yeah. So just I think that's fine. You can just stay in here.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, I bring it up when it comes up because I'll forget about it, right? So yeah, but go ahead with what you're saying. Pizza.
I mean, I just
Yeah.
want to clarify this too, also for the video, just for because I know James would get really mad if I misinterpreted what he was saying, or I just didn't remember a thing he said. So I just want to say that, like, this is just me going off my memory. I don't have recordings, unfortunately, so this is just me kind of uh, remembering what he said, and I could get some things wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, anytime that I talk to anyone, I assume they're just, doing their best to recall things, and I'm getting one side of the story, right? So,
Yeah,
I'm just
because I've
reacting under the assumption that your memory is like perfect and whatnot.
because I've had people misinterpret me, and it's like it's so annoying because it's like, do do I even want to respond to this? Like, if it's just a complete misinterpretation, like you've probably had the same experience. It's like,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know.
Try it being a deliberate misinterpretation that someone repeatedly just spreads all over the place just to fuck with you, right? In fact,
Yeah,
ironically, that's what got James banned. But doing that to Avi and I. But yeah, also, like, that's what Mike the Vegan did to Avi. He, like, misinterpreted him in a way that, like, he knew it was bullshit, right? And he spread it to like 300,000 people. It's just like, it's a pretty fucked up thing to do. Or like, Vegan Foot Soldier, like, that guy is probably, I think he's like the worst faced person that I've ever encountered in my life. Like, that guy, he knows that he's just lying about me in a ton of instances, right? But just says it anyway because I don't know, like, he's just malicious, or he just doesn't give a fuck, or he just cares more about, like, convincing people he's correct even at the expense of being honest. Like, so yeah, try not just being misrepresented, but being deliberately misrepresented by some fuckhead, right? Who just doesn't give a fuck. They know they're doing it. Right? It's one thing if it's an accident. It's another if you know that they know what they're doing.
and now it's like potentially, smart people who, you'd want to be on good terms with is now like, upset at you because of this interpretation. You can't, do anything about it unless you're constantly like pointing out how these are misinterpretations.
Well, yeah, Sam Harris has a lot of good shit to say about this. People rip on Sam Harris so much. And, like, I kind of get why, because we're in, like, a philosophy community over here, and, like, he's got some very brutal, like, philosophy takes, but especially around, like, meta-ethics. But, he gives a lot of good takes on a whole ton of things. I've been, like, defending him lately. I try to talk to Alex sometimes, Alex Malpass, and convince him of the virtue of Sam Harris. Never any luck at all. It's very, very futile thing to try. But anyway, he has good takes on this, and he just points out, like, the it is so much easier to just damage the discourse or damage another person's reputation with a bunch of bullshit than it is to clean it up, right? Like, it's so true, right? It's so easy to just spread some bullshit and to systematically tease apart the bullshit. It's like, it's because it spreads around everywhere. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could give, like, a proof of it or something, but it's just really fucking irritating. It's like, it feels like for this person to, like, just fuck around with me by just saying some nonsense. It takes them no time. They don't seem to care. They're, like, gleeful about it. And then, for me to do all the cleanup work, it's like, it feels like fucking just the worst thing ever. It's like this huge fucking chore. So yeah, they're very annoying.
Yeah. And also, just like one more thing, won't be long at all. Just
You said that like 5 times.
yeah,
But I don't mind. It's fine. Yeah.
yeah. So, I've heard some people talking about your sort of motive when you debate about veganism and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So is it to turn more people vegan, or is it just to, like, I don't know, just debate well and point out problems with what people are saying?
Well, I think that it's closer to the second, but I'll just say at the outset before answering, like, I always kind of point out that I think that it's hard to, like, exactly account for our own motives. I don't think that they're, like, totally transparent to us, and I think that when we try to describe them, we often don't do a perfect job. So, if I had to, like, speculate on my motives, the kind of things that come to mind are, like, I enjoy debating. I like testing out my opinions and seeing how they do when I talk to someone, even if it's someone who's, like, low level. It's like, when it's almost like in jiu-jitsu, like, if you roll with someone who's a really, like, low belt or whatever, like, you can do more, like, tactics or something and try more things. So yeah, it's like, it's fun to debate. I like to test out my view. I like to find out what's true, right? I want to get to the truth. That's a big one. But yeah, persuading people is not, like, at the top of my mind. It's like sometimes it enters the picture and sometimes it's on my mind, but it's definitely not, like, one of the first things that would come to mind when I go, like, what motivates me to debate. So yeah, sorry if that answer's a bit vague, but all I can really point to is kind of a cluster of things that come to mind. And yeah, converting people is not like at the top there.
All right. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the conversation. It was really long. It was longer than I expected it to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's a good chat, I'm always happy to talk.
All right.
Okay, yeah, well, good meeting you. I mean, I guess we've probably exchanged a few words in here before, like in passing, but yeah, good, like properly meeting you. Yeah, and get free from the incel stuff. Okay, you work out and get in good shape and get everything together, and then get that shit off your mind, because that stuff is toxic and it'll fucking fuck your life up. But yeah, okay. Aside from that, very good talking to you, and yeah, have a good night, eh? And and the recording, yeah, I'll here, I'll send you a friend ad. So just accept that, and I'll put this in a Google Drive, and then I'll send you a Drive link. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, it works. Just in DMs or whatever.
Alrighty. Okay. Have a good one.
All right. Yep.
Peace.
Bye.